Yo, what is up, everybody, and welcome back to more Ace Attorney. I'm being very professional and adjusting my layout on the fly. Oh yeah, we're also not going to do text chat, so I guess you get to see the pre-stream music that I was using. Anyway, holy cow, we have got quite a case ahead of us. How could this poor woman who was stabbed be hurt by anyone other than our client? I mean, no one else was in the area. Well, I'm so excited to figure this out that I completely, didn't even, do things right. Ooh, I like that they have the continuation with a scene from the adventure that we're on. I like that little touch. But, oops, where did my blunders go? There are my blunders. Alright. Let's do it! Get right into the trial. What's gonna happen? If I had to guess, I would have to guess that it's probably not the two people we were with that are involved in the actual killing. It could be related to the witnesses that saw everything. We'll see, though. Well, I never expected this. Who would have thought we'd be back here again so soon? We are on a study tour of Great Britain with the intention of learning the country's legal practices. In order to research the latest court procedures here, we need as much court experience as possible. Well, yeah, I suppose that's true, but for the person in the dock, it may well be his or her one and only time in court, and it could be life-changing. In which case, treating it as research may seem a little crass. Oh, when you put it like that, you're quite right. Good morning. Ah, Mr. Natsumi. Good morning. Oh dear, are you alright? Your eyes are terribly bloodshot. The early bird catches the worm, as they say here in Britain. Yes, I've heard that expression, but I really don't want to catch a worm. No, I tried really to wake up early, but I was so worried I couldn't catch a wink. And now, I'm absolutely exhausted as a result. Do all literary people take things so literally? Thank you for putting your faith in us today, Mr. Natsumi. I wish I had 9 lives. My whole future hangs in the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble. Really? Because I can feel tremors in the floor. I can't do this. I can't take it. Although, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Yeah? I caught a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. Well, like the opening night of the opera, there were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair here in London. Oh, neither did I. Do you know why that might be, Miss Susato? I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but I have no idea. That all-knowing look on your face is just coincidence, then, is it? Don't hide the truth from me! It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? Lord Van Zieks? Is it that right, Miss Susato? I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning, and yes, Lord Van Zieks is on the front page of every one. I knew it! Sometime after the prosecutor was dubbed the Reaper of the Bailey, he stopped appearing in court, it seems. It's been several years now, in fact, until the day before yesterday. Yes, Inspector Gregson told us something similar, didn't he? The trial 2 days ago marked Lord Van Zieks' return to the courtroom after a very long hiatus. The trial of Magnus McGilded. Ugh, what a harrowing experience that was. I believe that appearance made even greater waves here in the capital than today's. But we wouldn't have realized, of course, having only just arrived in the country. Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon for what appears to be a mundane murder? That's the question the papers are asking, and they are all speculating various answers. Mundane? Mundane is the most significant saga of the century for some of us. Oh dear, I meant no offense, Mr. Natsumi, but That is how the papers are describing it. Well, lest we also forget the fact that it could spark an international incident. Obviously, the reappearance of this infamous prosecutor has caught people's attention. There's another blatant similarity with the trial of 2 days ago. Yes, I agree. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, it's you. Me? Well, I suppose that's true. Both times it is you who stands against the legendary prosecutor. It can only mean that you're friends with the Reaper. Please, I don't rub shoulders with Deathbringers. I'm afraid that there's really only one other explanation. It can only be another example, Mr. Naruhodo, of your uncommon bad luck. Thanks for that. Oh, this is just my luck. Why must I be represented by a man with such a frail fortune? Probably the least lucky lawyer alive. Well, let's not forget that it was you, Mr. Natsumi, who asked me to represent you. Yes, it's true that I'm just a student, new to London, with little in the way of experience or skills, or luck. But I promise you this. I will fight for your corner until the bitter end, and I will believe in you, Mr. Natsumi. Oh, benevolent locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. You're not alone here with us, Mr. Natsumi. Whatever happens, we will always be on your side. Oh, benevolent non-locum assistant, Ms. Mikotoba Esquires. I am in your debt forever! I shall never forget this great kindness for as long as I live. Mr. Natsumi, counsel for the defense. The court session is about to begin. Kindly make your way into the courtroom at once. All right then, Mr. Natsumi, it's time. Let's go. Yes! This is it. Agreed, Ryunosuke. My second appearance in a British courtroom. And my second trial against the Reaper. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because this time, I won't let my faith waver. I'll believe in my client to the last. Just like you believed in me. I believe I can do this now. I'm ready for this fight. Let's go, Confidants. With Ryunosuke. 20th of February, 10 a.m. Old Bailey courtroom. A lot of chatter. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. What's up, Johan? Alright. Johan, you called almost every character in this game a DILF. But Kazuma's probably not a DILF. What would you consider Kazuma? I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared, my lord. The defense is ready, my lord. The Nipponese are a truly fascinating breed. Sorry, what? Lord Strongheart has told me all about you. That you are a student who arrived in London but 2 days ago. A mere amateur. Johan, you can't just say that. Do you have a point? Being a compatriot, you feel compelled to try to help the accused, I suppose. Typical Nipponese arrogance. Forgive me, but I do not believe arrogance is an appropriate description. Zao-san. After all, at our previous encounter, the defendant was found to be innocent. Very true. And a most fascinating, if dark, trial it was, too. A tragic conclusion came later, of course. Here's to the acquitted and his unfortunate, violent end. Thank you, counsels. I see both sides are in fine fettle. I just noticed who the jury, one of the persons of the jury is. They're ready to carry out your duties here in court as impartial members of the public. This is ridiculous. He literally, wait, he literally was a witness for a previous trial with experience with both the prosecution and defense. Wouldn't it technically be illegal for him to be a juror? Well, I must warn you, I'm rather more ruthless than I appear. Oh, well, not me. What you see is what you get. I'm a peace-loving fellow. You can't just be here? What the heck? Sus. Come on, what are we waiting for? No doubt it did it anyway. Sorry, didn't quite catch that. Yeah, juror number 1. This is super sus. What are you doing, game? Your opening statement, if you please, Lord Van Zeeks. Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with a rising power in the Far East. The accused is the doc is a student from that same land, a certain Mr. Saseki Natsumi. And while our country has extended this foreign student a warmest of welcomes, regrettably the kindness has not been returned. In fact, the student is accused of a most sinister act. Plunging a knife into the back of an innocent woman who was doing nothing but walking down the street. A knife crime? I tell you from bitter experience, those are the worst bloody oaths they are. You literally shouldn't be a juror! Just look at that swallow complexion and sword stature. He's one of those dreadful Japanese. Wow! Come on, let's get this over with me now, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, didn't quite catch that. What the frig? You can't. Okay, this jury is insane. Pray forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hallowed chalice here in the great chamber. You did that last time! Allow me to call the first witness to the stand. Very well. Bailiff, lead the inspector in, please. Your name and occupation, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard. Would you please summarize the events of the case for the court, Inspector? The victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green. I beg your pardon, Inspector. Thought to be? Yes, having been stabbed in the back by her attackers, that the victim fell unconscious. That was 3 days ago now, and she's been comatose ever since. What? I don't even know who she is for sure. Comatose. I see. But her life is not in danger? Fortunately for the Eastern student, the charge will not be murder. Pray elaborate on the details, Inspector. Sir, if I could ask everyone to look at this street map. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement running alongside Briar Road, a wide thoroughfare for horse-drawn vehicles. It had not long since stopped snowing as the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. Out of the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. Luckily, the young lady's life was spared and she's currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take a statement from her, of course. This is the case file with everything we know about the victim so far. I swear, if there's an updated autopsy report, I'm going to just leave. Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence, if you please. What of the weapon that was used? Sir, I have that here. It was removed from the victim's back. Ouch, that big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now. With a heavy blade like that, almost anybody would have been able to stab the poor woman. Even the scragged-looking Saseki-san, I suppose. A common or garden jackknife, I would say, rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts the blade as evidence. Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume? From what we can tell by looking at the woman's possessions, it seems like she's a poor student herself. Hard to imagine she would have had anything much worth pinching, my lord. I see. In that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment toward the victim? I'm afraid I couldn't say. Apart from visiting second-hand bookshops, the defendant, Mr. Natsumi, doesn't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim. If theft and grievance had been ruled out as the motive, what reason could Mr. Natsumi possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that, in a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way. Oh my. Oh my. Pray forgive the discourtesy of flicking a freshly uncorked bottle into the public gallery. But your words have soured its hollow bouquet. It's bouquet. Or bouquet. For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here. What? Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest a Nipponese student. Yes, sir.
Hooray!
Yo!
I can't believe this!
Captain Dread, thank you for the raid. Welcome, everyone. My name is Seraphim. I'm currently doing a playthrough of Great Ace Attorney 1. Please, no spoilers. And if you ever plan on playing the game yourself, you probably don't want to watch. But if you don't care or have played through the game, welcome. I hope you enjoy the game. And thank you so much, Captain Dread. Appreciate it. Yo, what's up, Nage? It's good to see you. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else out but the victim and the accused. Yo, what's up, Basura? How are you doing? Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he just bought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found the bloke to arrest him. Old books, you say? Yes, my lord. I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime, taken immediately after the incident. Ah, yes, I can clearly see the books to which you are referring. I'll take that photographic print as evidence, please, Inspector. You Nipponese are a spineless breed. You do cowardly to admit defeat. Denying everything despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Well, give me Willard Van Zeeks, but the defendant is not denying everything, as you put it. What are you doing, Mrs. Otto? Do go on. Mr. Natsumi has admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, now that you mention it, when we visited him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us what it all had happened. As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed into the cold hard slabs of stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there, so I ran as fast as my legs could carry me back to my accursed lodgings. A green overcoat? Well, that's exactly what the woman in the print is wearing. Oh my, a photographic print is full of color. Oh, well, what will the world come up with next? The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of a terrifying incident. That does not mean that he's guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back. There was nobody else there at the time, just the two of them, the victim and the accused. In other words, there is nobody else who could possibly have stabbed the woman. A fact that the accused concedes. Ugh. It seems his cross-examination could prove to be pivotal, counsel. Proceed, please. Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. I have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables here. It's our only chance.
Hold it!
How are you able to state that with any certainty? Quite simply, my learned friend, because that is what the witnesses of this crime have told us. Ah, Inspector Gregson mentioned the witnesses yesterday, didn't he? That's right. One of them is a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard. That is correct, ma'am. Then we must hear their testimony. The prosecution will, of course, call them to the stand, should it be necessary. Wait a minute. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of winter, it would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen. I'm unaware of the situation on your tiny island in the east. But here in the capital city of Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated in the night by gas streetlights. Ah. The prosecution believes there would have been ample light by which to witness the crime. Here's the problem. Literally? How can there be nobody else there and there be witnesses? Here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the dark. Which means we really need to hear those witness statements. I think we can just get through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to. It seems the counsel for the defense is taking stock. Continue with your testimony, Inspector. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement.
Hold it!
From behind, you say? That's right, as you can see from the print. Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the weapon is clearly protruding from the victim's back. You can see this poor woman, Miss Green, remains in critical condition, comatose no less. I'm afraid so, my lord, yes. She's being treated at Bart's. HIPAA, what the heck, dude? I was hopeful that she'd come around before the trial starts so I could take a statement, but it wasn't to be. Yes, that is indeed a pity. It would have been most illuminating to hear the victim's own account of events. Luck is on your client's side, it seems. Huh? On the contrary, my client has been exceedingly unlucky. Your force of tone is seriously undermined by those disturbingly wide eyes, I'm afraid. He's ran off, scattering his belongings all over.
Hold it!
What's up, XLR? His belongings? I think you'll find it's all there in the photographic print of the crime scene. The 3 books on the floor. That's right, my lord. Second-hand books they were. Irreparably damaged from after falling in the snow, of course. The accused could easily have carried all 3 books in one hand, which means his other hand would have been free to wield a knife, for example. What's up, Vintage? How you doing? Very clever, isn't he? What do you mean? He's made it extremely hard for you to assert that Mr. Nitzumi had his hands full with his books. He's managed to close the one avenue of escape we might have had before we even knew it was there. You mean to say that the defendant was holding his belongings as he thrust the knife into the woman's back? That must be what happened, my lord, yes. Those being a number of old books he just bought, he was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. The defendant apparently visits a second-hand bookshop on a daily basis. Yes, so I understand. A shop full of old English literature. I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention. The bloke's room was stacked floor to ceiling with those musty old books. Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector? Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at the street map again, I'm afraid. The closest second-hand bookshop to the accused's lodgings in this place is Bourbon Books, a little place on the corner of Briar Road and Mearstrom Street. As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road on the opposite end, which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home. Something like this. I concur with your conclusion, Inspector. The defendant certainly would have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from that particular shop. Mr. Naruhodo, I think that what the inspector just told us could turn out to be of very vital importance. Yes, I agree. Most important point that the inspector just made being... crucial detail in what you just told the court, Inspector, is the location of the bookshop. Couldn't agree more. So, where is it exactly? Eh? Hey, why? I just explained that. I got the map on everything. Use red, blue, and ink. Do the bloke draw home on for you. I distinctly remember seeing you not along, Counsel. Oh, yeah, of course. I must have been so nervous I didn't take it in. Wonder of the day goes to you, my learned friend. No, not yet. The trial's only just begun after all. Mr. Naruhodo, I would strongly advise you to look carefully through the court record at this stage. Yes, miss. At once, miss. Sorry, miss. Inspector, continue with your testimony, please. Wait, did I actually get that wrong? Wait, your books? Wait a second. Wait a second. Your books. That is not the same as the bourbon books. All right. What is this? Oh. Look here, Mr. Naruto. Just at the tip, a small piece of the blade appears to be missing. You're right, well spotted, Miss Susato. I wonder what could have happened to it. Yes, you don't think it could still be lodged with the victim, do you? Oh dear, I do hope not. That sounds terribly painful. Inspector Gregson, may I ask you a favor? What? Sorry, I wanted to like get to the. Wow, I like really got like. I got locked in. I got locked into the game. Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? I was like thinking about like. I was like, wait, I need to think about this. I believe it may be of vital importance. Maybe. Yeah, I will say with this game, I do feel like Suzato saying, hey, check the court record. I feel like I think that's a little too strong of a hint. I don't like that. I don't want the game to hold my hand. Oh, well, you know, I mean, yes, it could be a very important clue. Very well. Not that I can see it being of any great significance. But please revise your testimony accordingly, Inspector. Yes, sir, my lord. Whatever you say. Can't be any more sarcastic. Let's see. On his way home from Bourbon Books, a secondhand bookshop he apparently paid. Let's think about this. If I could just stop you there, Inspector Gregson. What is it, Sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know. This is a receipt that we found in Mr. Natsumi's room. It was issued on the day of the incident, and details the purchase of 3 secondhand books. And you found that in the accused's room, did you? Yes, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it. Go on. This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books. Your Books? Y-O-R-E, I presume. Yes, my lord. So Mr. Natsumi did indeed purchase a number of books at a secondhand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books. Huh? What? Inspector, do you know of any of this other bookshop? Yes, sir. Your Books is another secondhand bookshop not far from Bourbon Books. It's just that, well, it's such a small place, I didn't think the accused would have known about it. But in fact, that is the bookshop which the defendant visited on the day in question. And this receipt proves it.
Objection!
Yes, for what difference it makes. Whatever the man purchased this must be told, it makes no difference in the final analysis. I disagree. I mean, after all, I have a street map here. This might be about... yes, thank you. Have a look at this, please. If the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he would have most certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take into account the fact that he was actually at another bookshop, Your Books, may very well be he wouldn't have passed the location at all. Could that be true? My, it rather depends on where this other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility. Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir? What you just said? Absolutely, it absolutely could be right. Inspector Gregson, where is the Your Books establishment? Well, obviously we looked into that. Turns out that your books is just here on the next corner of Mearsham Street going east. And there you have it. As you can clearly see now. Oh. It changes literally nothing. My learned Nipponese friend is obviously in training to be a clown the way he relegates us such witticisms to your future career in the circus. You put that glass down now or I'll put it down for you. Jeepers, Susanoo! Oh my gosh! I didn't think I needed to spell it out, but here we go. If the accused is coming home from your books instead of Bourbon books, there's no doubt he still would have passed the place where the victim was stabbed. Excuse me. Yeah, thank you, Inspector. Oh. Allow me to reiterate for my learned, if somewhat slow, Nipponese friend. Oh my gosh. You have a lot of chalices, my dude. Wherever the man purchases his musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis. As I suspected, you can't fool me, and I don't suggest you try. What did I say? I've had enough of this now. Beg your pardon. Terribly sorry, but would you repeat that? Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't give up. What? What do you mean? If the prosecution's assertion is correct, the members of the jury may well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty. Ah, she's right. We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully. It claims Soseki-san must have passed the location of the incident on his way home from your books, but let's raise an objection. The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed. Explain yourself, counsel. Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean on this map. When returning from your books to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places. If the defendant used those streets, look what happened. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was attacked. Talking back to a clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that that route is what is commonly referred to as the long way around. On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take a longer route home? Well, the answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodgings, as is the obvious perpetrator of this crime. But, yes, I've got it. Obviously, we must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Matsumi which route he took home. I've already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection. That's right. As I said, the bloke seems to spend his time outside wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day was no exception. He says he doesn't remember where he was or which route he took home. I don't believe this! I thank you, my learned friend, and suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around the subject. Pray, what you say, you insightful jurors? But even if that is the case, the defense still... I agree with Lord Van Zeeks, wholeheartedly and in every way. What? I don't believe it. What does this mean? We members of the jury are completely convinced now. Very well, in that case, I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court.
Guilty!
Oh my.
Guilty. 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 Guilty.
Guilty!
Oh my gosh, that was quick. But it appears that the jury's learned leaning is unanimous. To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You serve Queen and country admirably. Mr. Naruhodo. No, not yet. This isn't over yet. I still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. I have to tip the balance of those scales the other way. I had to turn this around. Somehow! Those are the eyes of Corey, not yet willing to give up and die. So, adversary, we intend to wield your rights again in this trial. Rights of the defense written into antiquated British law that should have been buried long ago. Call it antiquated if you will, but it's the defense's prerogative to carry out a summation examination if it so chooses. Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with the summation examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Foreman? Of course we're ready. I'm all too familiar with that Nipponese whippersnapper and his uncas refusal to throw in his alley. Very well, then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, who will explain on what grounds you have determined that the defendant will be guilty, or is guilty. For pity's sake, that little Nipponese oddity already admitted it himself, didn't he? If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it could only have been the victim. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way to the bookshop, not in winter. So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful. I really don't care. Can't we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing. Your books, yes. Nice shop, that. Bourbon books? No, not worth a visit. Well, in minor exceptions, the reasons for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear. When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. And the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes. Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already. Oh dear, even the judge appears convinced of Mr. Natsumi's guilt. Ugh, why did he have to run away like that? How are you supposed to believe in some phantom attack that nobody could see? This is impossible. How can I possibly make a case for the defense? Mr. Naruhodo, this is no time for grumbling. If we want to force the trial to continue... Yes, I know, I have to turn the tide. I must make the jurors change their minds. Well, 4 of them at least. Exactly. We have no choice but to forge forward. You have the floor, counsel. Begin your summation examination. Yes, my lord. Just need to keep the trial going somehow, whatever it takes. Come on, Ryunosuke, you can do it. Well, I know the obvious one.
Hold it!
What's up, Baja? How you doing? You read that at the time of the incident, the defendant admits to having seen someone wearing a green overcoat walking ahead of him. Well, quite, that's precisely my point. Clearly, that someone wearing green was the victim. Clearly, that funny little Nipponese man with the super mustache is the culprit. Let's not forget, madam, the defendant vehemently denies attacking the woman. Well, of course he does. If he admits to stabbing her, his life is over. He's obviously a liver-faced coward, honestly, claiming the woman simply collapsed before his eyes. If that's a lie, as you're suggesting, do you not think he would have concocted something more credible? Oh, I really couldn't say. After all, you are foreign. Who's to say what goes through your funny little minds? I could tell you what's going through my funny little mind right now, but you wouldn't like it. I do declare the man has already made the admission. He himself has stated that there was nobody else around. Surely, the conclusion is obvious. No one else could possibly committed this awful crime. No one else could have done it. The accused must be the man. Really, it couldn't be more simple. Argument is compelling in its simplicity, I must admit. Oh my, you are too kind, my lord. That went well for her. Yeah, these are both good games. The woman was attacked from behind. I'm gonna pit her statement and her statement together.
Objection!
And the reason being is the behind. Because if she says it was in front, but she's stabbed from behind, that can't be a thing. I'm sorry, but as foreman of the jury, I have to object. That's complete nonsense. What? I'm a banker, don't forget, an educated man, and there's no contradiction as far as I can see. Really? Oh. That's really weird. So there's no contradiction in saying saw collapse in front and being stabbed from behind. Okay.
Hold it!
Excuse me, but aren't you... Yes, that's right. I was in the witness stand myself just 2 days ago. Guess I had a feeling I knew your face, or the side of it anyway. If I remember correctly, you're a banker, aren't you? That's right. After the gold rush down under, I came back to London to work. It was all going swimmingly until you started fossicking about Bruce Fairplay. I was a man of repute. Sorry? I don't think I've forgotten how you treated me the other day. You had me and that young hatter pegged as criminals. Oh, well, you know, water under the bridge. Now there's all sorts of rumors buzzing around, and the police have been badgering me nonstop. If I could turn back the clock... Well, anyway, I don't know about the hatter. At least I'm in the clear now. Free to make up my own mind about who's guilty and who isn't. Huh. Thank goodness. Alright, maybe I should go change plans. Oh dear, I wonder what's become of Mr. First now.
Hold it!
You can't deny that there are other routes Mr. Matsumi could have taken back from your books. Oh yes, like you drew on the map, you mean? What was it? Calabash Road or something? Precisely. It seems to me that what counts is whether the little Japanese will actually went that way or not. Well, yeah, that's true. And at the moment, there's no proof that shows he did, is there? Well, yeah, that's true as well. As I understand it, the accused himself doesn't remember which way he went, does he? Well, yeah, that's annoyingly true. Winter nights are dark and cold, so the way I see it, you want to get home as quickly as possible. Well, yeah, why is all this true? The only thing that makes sense is that he went home along by a road. I've given it a lot of thought, you know. I didn't just make up my mind on a whim that he did it. I mean, if there's some logical reason why he might have gone the Calabash Road way, it'd be different. I'd be happy to reconsider my position in that case. Honest, I would. Here's why Suzuki-san might have taken the longer way home. For good reason. I don't imagine you'll be able to sway this young man's opinion without one.
Hold it!
Whatever is the matter, young man? You're the wife of Mr. Garadeb, aren't you? Landlord who rents Mr. Natsumi's room. The master's wife? Where did you get your ideas, sir? I'm the maid, you understand. Keeping up that charade. Oh, this is going to be awkward. Why didn't you mention this yesterday? That you'd be selected for the jury in this trial, I mean. Well, I was told not to mention it to anyone until the day of the trial, you see. In the letter I received, the instructions were very clear, so I'm afraid I had no choice. I see. Anyway, Mr. Natsumi, the defendant, is lodging in your master's house, doesn't he? Yes, that's right, although he's only been in a little over a week now. And in that time, surely you must have taken stock of his character. Doesn't he look like the kind of man who committed a crime such as this? Oh my goodness me, yes, he's just the sort. What? Spending all his time in that dark and dingy room, sporting that unscrupulous mustache. Man never speaks, and don't get me started on those shifty eyes. All the neighbors are talking about him. I've heard them, you know. People think he must be building a bomb in there or something. Poor Mr. Natsumi. How could people say such things about him? He's just a harmless bookworm. Nothing more. Well, I just call him a worm, so... I better be careful about inviting this maid to speak. She said enough damning things already.
Hold it!
A man's life is on the line here, sir. This will take as long as it takes. Don't get clever with me now, son. My life's on the line, too. So is my family's. Huh? Like as if you wouldn't understand, but a laborer like mine can't afford to take time off. If I don't work, I don't eat, and neither do the wife and kids. I see. It must be very hard. I go to the union every morning to find out what needs to be doing. If you're late and the work's taken, it's tough. Time of year, there's water and gas supply pipes bursting left and right and center. After cheap labor to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's a hard slog from dawn to dusk, it is. So, you were out digging up the roads at the day of the incident as well, were you? That's right. In fact, if I remember rightly, it was just around the corner from where it all happened. By that old bookshop it was. What? Another coincidence? That's right. Meersham Street it was. Meersham Street? On the map, there are only 3 named streets. Sure, number 5. I need to add that information to your formal statement, please. What's the point in that? Can't we just get this business over with now? Please, sir, it's important. Fine, I'll do it then. On the day it happened, I was digging up Meersham Street from dawn till dusk.
Hold it!
Sorry. Fold it, you said? Fold what? No. I said hold it. What I wanted to ask was, do you visit your books often? I like the old books they have in there, yes. I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of old tea. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. Now, what time did you visit your books on the day in question? Well, I was picking out books in there all afternoon. It would have been just before 5 that I left. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. Just before 5, you say, exactly when the victim was attacked. Are you sure about the time? Oh, yes, no mistake there. I remember it well. I'm not about to forget that day in a hurry. Not after the dreadful time I had. What do you mean? Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped on the ice and downed my head. It's always worse after the snow stopped falling. That's when it was most slippery. Got myself clean out, I did. I really thought my number was up. Wait a minute, let me get this straight. This happened on Calabash Road? That's right, I live in Cornpipe, you see. Heading down Calabash Road is the quickest way for me to get back from your books. True number 6, I must insist. You add that information to your formal test statement may be extremely significant. Huh? Sorry? Extremely sick? No, I'm quite alright now. It sent a shiver down my spine to hear the members of the jury so convinced of Mr. Natsumi's guilt. I can't help feeling that some of their opinions are rather subjective. I agree, it's the irrelevance of what some of them are saying that sent a shiver down my spine. Still, at least some of their assertions don't actually incriminate Mr. Natsumi of anything. That's something. We must hold that to our advantage, Mr. Naruto. Yes, you're right. Don't hold back. Put them all against each other. If I understand correctly, you're a day laborer and you were doing road maintenance that day? That's right. Like I said, you get a lot of bursts. Gas and water parts underground in the middle of winter. It's the only time of year fellows like me can actually make a few bob. You're not missing out today. And when you say from dawn till dusk, well, the work has to be complete within the day. See, no coaches or pedestrians can pass while it's happening. I wonder if I could trouble you, sir, to mark on this street map the exact location of the works you were carrying out. Give it here, then. Let me have a look. Alright, let's see then. Here we are, Meersham Street. Yes, it was just here. Like, the tiny dig, I tell you. We had to get through all the drifts of snow that had frozen solid. And at what sort of time did you finish the work? Well, we started in the morning and we can't have finished before gone 6, I'd say. The snow had stopped coming down, but it was a long past dark for sure. That means the road work was still going on when Mr. Green was attacked right around 5 o'clock. Road works on Meersham Street, huh? So... that was around 5 o'clock, you say, the same time the victim was attacked? I don't know anything about the girl who was stabbed. My dinner's on the table at the same time every day. For the record, could you please identify the precise location of your fall? Goodness, it was eons ago now. I'm not sure I can remember. It was 3 days ago. Try stretching your memory, please. Well, let me see. It was especially slippery around about... oh, yes, I remember now. Just on the corner here. What happened to you then? Were you alright? Well, you don't get too many people down Calabash Road, you see. So there was no one around when I fell, no one around when I knocked myself out, no one around when I came to again, and no one around when I sneezed. Picked myself up and went back to my nice, warm house where my grandchildren were waiting for me. Sad and lonely picture you paint, sir. You were fortunate not to have frozen to death. How lucky that he wasn't more seriously injured. True. Sounds like he was very nearly another hospital admission or worse. Ah, yes, one more thing. Were you wearing the same green overcoat on the day in question? Oh, absolutely. It's the only coat I have. Took until this morning to dry out properly. Good job, too, or I'd have not... Oh. Well, well, well. Ho, ho, ho. Suppose we should. Gentleman certainly had a close shave there. Alright, let's take another look. Let's see. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses, not in winter. I'm gonna pit juror number 5 and juror number 3 because he wouldn't have gone around the winter, but he was doing road work.
Objection!
I'm gonna do that first. Those two teammates are clearly at odds with one another. At odds, counsel. Explain yourself. Please don't point. It wasn't me, I swear. Hey, what? I just want to get this done and dusted. Well, juror number 3. Oh, me, sir? What do you mean? Juror number 5's words just now are extremely significant. Let's take a moment to consider the implications of what's been said on our map of the local area. On the day in question, Mr. Natsumi visited this bookshop to purchase a number of secondhand books. By the way, I just want to say there is not a chance that the jury just so happens to all be in this area. They're basically witnesses at this point. This is actually absurd. But anyway, I'm going to move on. On the day in question, Mr. Natsumi visited this bookshop to purchase a number of secondhand books. And on the same day, we now know that there were works being carried out on Mearsham Street, making it impassable, which means that the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Mearsham Street and down Briar Road. Oh, yes, of course. What do you think, sir? Well, yes, you can't argue with that, really, can you? We must have had a good 2 yards or more of the pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along had to turn back and go the other way. So the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken the longer route back to his lodgings. Yes, I suppose he must have. I suppose that must be right, eh? Juror number 3, you said the following. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. But we see now that he had no choice. Yes. My lord, Mr. Judge, sir, if I may. Yes. I don't think in all good conscience that I can say the man's guilty now. Yes, I'd like to see this trial continue so we can get to the bottom of what really happened. Let's go. Juror number 3 is a homie. What about you, sir? Hey, who, me? Well, alright then. If there's a hole in the prosecution's argument, it should be filled, and that's what I say. This is a bro for taking the time. He could just say, nah, bruh. I'm out. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruto. That was wonderful. Well, we managed to change a couple of minds at least. Strengthen our position somewhat. Yes, no problem. The other members of the jury to reconsider their stance as well. They'll be asking themselves if their current leanings are really right or not. Now, if only we could just identify one more clue or discrepancy that would make them stop doubting Mr. Natsumi. Might be able to tip the balance completely. Yes, that's exactly what we've got to do. Ban's just looking to bring the trial to an early conclusion. That's what we have to prevent, by whatever means we have at our disposal. Thank you, counsel. On with the summation examination, please. Yes, my lord. That was around 5 o'clock, you say, at the same time the victim was attacked? I don't know anything about the girl. Oh, wait. I feel like his green coat's a bit of a red herring. I have changed to the judgment. 2 more to go. Deliver the finishing blow now. Time to turn the tables here. Wish I knew how to do this without take them. Those words will have to suffice for now. Stabbed in the back. Remains unconscious. Name was gleaned from her. Apart from a single stab wound from the large knife, no other sign of injuries. The alien was seen ran away by the officer. So it's not juror number 2 and juror number 4.
Hold it!
Oh, I think I already did this. Let's see. Knocked myself clean out, you know. I slipped. He said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, but I could have warned the victim. Let's see. Local map. Venomous says seen someone wearing a green overcoat. Well, quite that's specifically one. Someone wearing a green. And clearly that funny little Limmy's man culprit. Let's not forget about the defendant vehemently died as a second though. Of course he does. Okay, so here's what I think. Yo, thank you, Captain Dread. I appreciate that. Let's see. So I feel like the game is trying to get me. I feel like the game wants me to pit her statement against the gentleman's statement. Here's why I think so. The reason I think so is because he's wearing the green coat and was not down on the road, and she's saying that it must have been the victim because there was a person in green. I think that's what the game's trying to get me to do.
Objection.
Let's show a flaw in the juror's reasoning. A flaw? What are you talking about, counsel? Well, juror number 2, juror number 6. My whatever do you mean, sir? I think perhaps the old man didn't hear you. Unbelievable. It's not like I was loud or anything. There is at least one fact of which we can be sure here. The bookshop receipt found in the defendant's room clearly indicates that on the day of the attack, he had been to your books and purchased a number of secondhand titles. He then returned home on foot. The man says he has no recollection of his return journey. That's correct, but what he does remember is seeing someone appear in front of him on the way. Someone in a green overcoat, who suddenly collapsed on the pavement before his eyes. Yes, you're all aware of this. The poor young woman was stabbed, obviously. Can we really be sure of that, madam? Well, my, whatever do you mean? I'm sure you heard juror number 6 account of what happened to him that day. That same afternoon, there was somebody else apart from the victim who was wearing a green overcoat and who fell over on the nicest streets in the neighborhood. Oh, my. My goodness, you mean... That's right. I'm referring, of course, to the hard of hearing juror number 6. Are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat whom the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes was a jolly old gentleman at the end of the bench here with me today? That is entirely possible, yes. After all, the old man had a somewhat similar build as the victim. Well, look at that. My goodness me. Sorry. You need a... And crucially, we know precisely where the old man in the green overcoat fell. On Calabash Road. Therefore, if the person who Mr. Natsumi saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6, means that the defendant must have taken the lawn route back to his lodgings. And if that's true, then clearly the crime scene on Briar Road where the woman was stabbed was not on his way home. Oh my. You idiot, old man. If you hadn't been so dazzled to be roaming about there, we'd have boxed this off hours ago. And really, what were you thinking wearing such a befuddling coat? What are you saying to me? It is a crime for the other to walk the streets, he said. Is it a crime to slip over on the ice? Is it a crime to keep up with the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat? Is it? My lord, I do hope it won't cause any inconvenience, but you'd like to change your leaning, I presume? I do declare that I should like to call for a verdict of not guilty. Thank you. And I would too. What? Is it a crime to change your mind? Is it? Well... Well, that summation examination is concluded with a rather large shift in opinion. The ayes 2, the noes 4, so the noes have it not guilty, they say. Which means we no longer have a consensus among the members of the jury. The trial will continue.
Objection!
Could it seem churlish to me to drink from my hollow chalice moments after raising an objection? Only to crush it in disgust? Pray, forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zeeks. It seems I must retract my earlier remark. What do you mean? I mistakenly credited these jurors with intelligence by describing them as insightful. Yet we have just witnessed them falling for a cheap trick performed by an Eastern entertainer. Huh? Whatever do you mean? I haven't tricked anyone. Everything I've said is the truth. Indeed, stalwart juror number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the road as he claims. I believe he said it was a good 2 yards of the pavement which you had excavated, sir. That truck took me the whole day and they paid me a measly tuppence for it. Now my learned Nipponese friend, tell me, you have any notion of the distance that 2 yards represents? Well... 2 yards is a little less than 2 meters. Less than 2 meters? That's not much at all. In other words, a distance readily vaulted by anyone of moderate vigor? Would you not agree, my stalwart friend? Me? Well, I can't say you're wrong, no. What? Did you perchance erect a sign to prevent pedestrians from passing the site of your works? I wouldn't dream of it. That would have wasted time. No coaches would have had a hope of passing anyway. We just turned away in a gentle flock back where they came. Kids just jump right over us all the time. The accused is no gentleman as far as I can see. I have little doubt, however, that he could sprint over a 2-yard trench in his meanderings around town. Is that true, is it? The incontrovertible truth is that the books just purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt that on his way back to the lodge, Mr. Natsumi walked down Briar Road. Crushed in a single sentence. And, old man? Old man, you can talk. He said around 5 o'clock on the day in question, you slipped and fell on Calabash Road. Pray, was there a suspicious-looking Nipponese behind you at the time? Oh, I, can't say as I remember. You don't remember? How about a wager, my learned friend? You say it was this old man that the accused saw, but I would lay 1,000 to 1 against you being able to prove it. Order. Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself. My lord, if you had such a trenchant argument up your sleeves, why in the world did you not pop for it during the summation examination? I wanted to give this young foreign student the sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself how the opinion of the jury is so readily swayed. Ugh. My hospitality has its limits, and they have been reached, I feel. So, my learned friend, today's sightseeing tour of London is now over. What are you talking about? My lord? The prosecution requests permission to call sex witnesses to the stand. Granted, bailiff, bring forth the witnesses. It's next witnesses? Mr. Naruhodo, do you not remember? We've been told on several occasions that there were eyewitnesses of the incident. Yes, I remember, one of them being a Scotland Yard policeman, no less. I'm afraid that's likely to be the prosecution's next witness. Alright. No matter who Vance brings to the stand as witnesses, no matter what they say, I believe in Saseki-san. I know he's innocent. And I'll keep believing to the very end, until this battle is over. This is gonna be insane, I bet. Oh my gosh. God help me. Constable Raleigh B. saw nothing to report on the street, saw. Hi, Miss Beat. Patricia's my name. I'm proud to say that I'm the young town hero's wife. What's the story here? Well, in truth, we've not been married long. In fact, we celebrated our first anniversary only the other day. No, it was your husband I was asking about. He seems tired. Hardly surprising. While it's being an honorable occupation, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world. Really? Sure, I've heard that before, actually. Indeed, apart from rare days off, our gallant officers trudge some 20 miles a day, you know. They patrol bordering houses and pubs, collect taxes, survey the streets, check the meters that are reading true, and they're responsible for keeping the streets clean, and lighting and extinguishing our street lights. There are a number of items on that list that don't sound much like policing duties at all. I wouldn't just be falling asleep at my feet. I'd have collapsed long ago. But it goes without saying that a policeman's primary duty is the apprehension of criminals. Even when he's off duty, a constable is expected to investigate and resolve any crimes on his beat. But the London Bobby is a man of honor. A man of slumber. On the day in question, this man and his wife were walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction, and they witnessed the incident as it occurred. Is that not correct, Mr. and Mrs. Beats? That's right, sir. Isn't it, Raleigh? Constable Raleigh Beats, nothing to run on the streets, What a great witness he's going to be. Very good. What's up, Jams? How you doing tonight? I'd like to hear your formal testimonies now, please. You will tell the court exactly what you saw on the afternoon of the incident. Yes, sir. It was our wedding anniversary, and Raleigh was taking me for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor, and the other scattered something before running off. He ran straight over, of course, and went for help by a nearby police box. It was definitely the Japanese man in the dock. Raleigh and I both saw him as clear as day. I'm doing alright, Jams. Been watching a lot of football, and now we're playing Ace Attorney, so today's a good day. Well, this is extremely compelling testimony, I must say. Oh dear. The policeman and his wife are claiming to have positively identified Mr. Natsumi at the scene. If their testimony is true, the alternative course of events that you established in the summation exam will be quashed. Death knell, in fact. Because that alternative was never viable in the first place. Yes, Jams, I also watched that, and very sad about it. What an unfortunate bit chancing, and on your wedding anniversary, too. Oh, I know. But I still managed to go out for the evening with my man. I thank the Lord for that. Gosh, life of a London Bobby sounds very hard indeed. I agree. Indeed, however, this cross-examination will be over in minutes. You may well have time to rest this afternoon. What do you mean by that? My learned friend, the witnesses saw the face of the man fleeing the scene. They are testifying under oath that it was without doubt the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsumi. One of these witnesses is a policeman, no less. So you appreciate the gravity of the situation, I'm sure. The man's so tired, his wife has to do all the talking. Enough preamble. Counsel for the defense. Commence the cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord. Yeah, enjoy your win. You stopped our offense. Your defense is better than our defense, basically.
Hold it!
No time to change after work, you say. Are you also a member of the policeman's beat? Oh, no, sadly not. It is a job for strapping young men only. Women, children, and the elderly can't even apply. Well, I think you can probably see why children and the elderly can't do the job, can't you? I think Riley looks ever so handsome in his uniform. It suits you down the ground, doesn't it, darling? Huh? What? I just finished my beat. Pat and I were heading down the back to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there. Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy. Oh no, Riley, I much prefer you in uniform. Sometimes I don't recognize you when I see you in plain clothes. Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy. Kindly adhere to the point. You were going for a meal after you finished your beat for the day, correct? That's right, sir. Yes, although I was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet. But please remember my life, sir. As long as I'm the proud owner of this, I'll serve my city and my queen to the end. What's that now? My warrant card, sir. Proof that I'm a London copper. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it. As a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty, patrol the streets of London town up and hold the peace of the common man. Side for such a noble cause, I cover 20 miles every single day without fail, without a grumble, because I know that the parting of my boots is all Londoners need to hear to feel safe and secure. So fighting crime doesn't appear to come into it then. But just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrate my wedding anniversary. Mrs. B puts up with being married to a lobby like me. I want to show my dear wife how much I care. Oh my gosh. Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold. But a little over the top, perhaps. And then kind of describe what happened next. Couple goals. Very true, Joanne.
Hold it!
Two silhouettes. That's right. They were coming toward us, walking up Briar Road in the opposite direction. There was a rather plump figure followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man. This sounds exactly like the victim in the picture print and like Mr. Satsumi. Yes, unfortunately it does. And you're certain that at that time there was nobody else nearby. Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there are streetlights on Briar Road, you see. There is nobody else around at all. Isn't that right, my darling? Huh? What? Yes, that's right. Of course, there was a light fog on the ground. The Briar Road is dead straight, and you could see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's the street line as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians. Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer, please, Mr. B. Are you quite sure of what you just said? Yes, sir. As a copper who spends all day every day keep watching the streets, I'd swear to it, sir. And I'm as sure that my love for Patricia is true. Oh, Pat. Oh, Raleigh. So maintaining there was no one else around other than the victim and the attacker. Trying to seem like there must be how it really happened. Beginning to seem like there's nowhere to run. Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsumi, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly. Thank you. I believe we have a reasonably clear idea of the situation just before the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed? Okay.
Hold it!
Scattered something? What do you mean by that? Oh, well, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time. And then when we got closer, we realized what it was. Didn't we, darling? What? Ah, yes, that's right. It was some old books. I see, old books. Yes, sir. The culprit had dropped a number of them around where the victim lay on the pavement. Indeed, as clearly pictured in this photographic print. This seems weird, though. Okay, here's my question. If these books were dropped by Mr. Natsumi, why are they dropped? Why are they dropped in this way? He would have almost had to have dropped them on the victim. This seems weird for where the books are. Why are the books like this? They robbed from Japanese man where he did the deed. Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker. But we saw him. It was the man in the dog without question. Stop. The mustache, the hunched back, the cat-like eye, the top mouth, the snub nose. Everything. Any more insults you want to throw in? That's right, he looked down at that poor defenseless woman with those terrifying intense eyes, and suddenly threw his books onto the pavement and ran away. I see. This is tough. They seem as though they're telling the truth here. Everybody in the court of this is ambiguous testimony comes from a policeman and his wife. Oh, please continue. Yes, sir.
Hold it!
Was it your husband who went to fetch help? No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am the proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling? What? Ah, yes, that's right. I asked Mrs. Beat to go. It was off duty by that point, but a Bobby is never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene. Very laudable, Mr. Beat. Preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance. That's why I sent Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box. Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box? Depends on a crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat, so I told Patricia the way to the police box with the beat the incident fell under so she could go and report it. I ran there as quickly as I could and asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There is nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know. Thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved. The actions of two model citizens. Oh, please, you're making us blush. Isn't he, darling? Yes, sir. What Patricia said, sir. Let's move.
Hold it!
But surely you wouldn't have been able to see his face by the light of the gas street lamps, would you? We absolutely could. Us learners have exceptional eyesight, I'll have you know. Right. The light from the street lamps was more than enough. My husband already told you that the fog was only light, didn't he? Yes. And what of the fog? Our famous sport across the globe, I believe, but it's an absolute menace to those who have to live with it, of course. Oh, it is. It is. When it's thick, you can't even see the hand at the end of your own arm. Yes, all right. I take your point. Now, could you stop shaking your husband about? The constant fog makes our eyes very sharp, you see. That's why we can tell you for sure and certain that it was that little Japanese man we saw. Can't we, darling? Huh? What? Yes. Was the accused and no mistake. The mustache, the hunchback, the cat-like eyes, the top mouth, the snub nose. Unmistakable, sir. As far as a couple testimony is concerned, there can't be any question. It's like they start running away from the scene of the crime. That's it, is it? That's their entire testimony? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beat saw what they saw. Mr. Natsumi ran away from the scene on Briar Road that day. Yes, I feel the same. So if that's true, where does it leave us? Members of the jury are going to call for a guilty verdict after this testimony. Oh no, what do we do? The Kazuma-sama over here? What are you trying to say? I think you would try to find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony. What do you mean, somewhere else? Your statement about seeing Mr. Matsumi is unequivocal. Calling that into question won't help. But if you could identify some other part of their testimony which appears to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them to make the jury doubt if the pair's memory of the day is accurate. Oh, right. Simply, we must focus on finding a discrepancy in those statements somewhere. If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavorable conclusion. Ugh. Why do I always seem to be so up against it? Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something? Oh, yes, of course. What is it? Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so... Seems like you don't believe our testimony, is that right? Is it? Well, out with it. Huh? No, it's really not that at all. My husband's a policeman, remember? All I know what I saw. I remember every last detail, everything, like... Oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped? I can tell you the names of every single one. Every single one. And you dare to question how reliable my testimony is? That will do, Mrs. Beat. No, it won't do at all. That Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. And if I decide to forgive him for something for a minute, that Raleigh will. I really didn't mean to cause offense. Please put your husband's fist down. Perhaps you'd like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Mrs. Beats. Might that appease you? Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely. Wouldn't it, darling? No, I think she's about to screw up.
Hold it!
We know that were books dropped at the scene of the crime, as you say. I was purchased by the accused at the nearby second-hand bookshop on the day in question. After I had been to the police box for help, I decided to have a good look over the area for good measure. I'm a proud policeman's wife, after all. I did it for Raleigh. And what was your husband doing at the time? Oh, he was lying face down in the snow, getting some well-deserved rest. He works ever so hard, you know. Ever so hard. Don't you, my darling? Interesting way of guarding the scene of the crime. Well, Mrs. Beach, seeing as you regale the court with tales of your power of recollection, you'd be so kind as to recount the titles of the books you observed at the scene. I'd be happy to. Now, are you all listening? There was the picture of Monsieur somebody or other, and what's it yearnings? Then there was, a meal for someone, and the last one was definitely the thingy
Objection! 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 Objection!
That's what I think. I see there are one or two holes in your memory. Oh well, they were along those lines, I'm quite sure. There are indeed books found at the scene with the titles along those lines, as you put it. Well, what did I tell you? So I think it's very mean the way you've been implying that my testimony can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling? Anyone else in Bob Patricia will have to answer to me too! Oh my gosh, calm down, dude. Oh my gosh. Terrifying. Yeah, she really is. That's it. No, 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 no. We got a contradiction. Chill, 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 chill. Relax. Oh, look at this. It's only 3 books on the receipt. So you're saying that there were 4 books. That's right. I remember all of them. The picture of Monsieur somebody, what's it earrings, a meal for someone, and the theme of something. I'm sorry, Miss Beat, or Mrs. Beat, but there is a fundamental flaw in that statement of yours. Oh no, what flaw? Simply that, at the scene of the crime, there were only 3 books, not 4. What? This is the receipt from the bookshop where the defendant bought his books. Your books? Yes, and it details Mr. Natsumi's purchases that day. And as you can see, only 3 books are listed. Only 3, but no. That can't be. I remember seeing them. There were 4 books, I tell you. 4 dirty old books. Oh, really? Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see from this evidence as well, there are only 3 books. But I just don't believe it. I saw them there, I swear it, I saw them. No, madam, I'm afraid your powers of observation cannot be relied upon. It cannot be denied that though you say it was the defendant you saw, you could very well be mistaken. Oh no, oh no, 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 no. No!
Objection!
Punch. It's plainly evident. It is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned Nipponese friend. What? What cannot be denied is that these two witnesses saw the accused running from the scene. A fact that you know very well you have no hope for disproving. So you're struggling to avert attention from that by dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Would that be fair? But your plan has somewhat recoiled against you. What are you talking about? It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. But the policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony in every respect. Oh? You see, the matter is not up for debate. At the scene on Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found. What about the photographic print? Here's what I think. I think there's definitely a 4th book being covered, but the receipt still shows 3 quite right. Only 3 can be seen in that print. That print? You mean to say... Jeepers. Allow me to present another one that shows the victim's hand. Why is she holding the book? The Lion's Pride. It's the 4th book. The Lion's Pride. Wait. Was it? Wait. Wasn't that Jester dude or Jester individual we saw before the trial just going on something about the Lion's Pride? The 4th book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso. No. No! Order! There, you see, look at that. Look. Yes. It's just like I said, isn't it, my darling? Yes, sir. Patricia's always right, sir. Let us study the receiver of the books purchased by the accused on the day in question. Mrs. Beat, the titles once again, if you please. Oh yes, of course. The picture of Monsieur somebody or other. The picture of Monsieur Lecoq. What's it? Yearnings. Canterbury yearnings. A meal for someone. A meal for Gaboria, in fact. As the court has just heard, the witness remembers the book pile is flawlessly save for a few minor details. Mrs. Beat's power recollection can all be described as exceptional. Did you hear that, Riley? The gentleman paid me a compliment. Yes, sir. Flawless, sir. Patricia is flawless. But there are only 3 books on the receipt, and Mrs. Beat mentioned 4. There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly, the 4th book is that which is shown in his photographic print. I'm sorry, counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt? It's not odd at all, my lord. The book probably belongs to her, or that's what it's supposed to be. As the photograph clearly shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim. The victim was holding her own book? I wonder what became of that 4th book. Obviously wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers of Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence. You will submit that in the aforementioned photographic print to the court, please, counsel. My pleasure, my lord. That Lion's Pride book is going to be massive. I have nothing further to add. What? You seem surprised, my learned friend. But your resistance until now has been in vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. The spurious longer route to the accused's lodgings that you tried to establish in your summation examination. The attempted discrediting of the witness's power of recollection in your cross-examination. Feudal? I walked right into this, didn't I? You see, everything we said is true. Isn't that right, my darling? Yes, Pat. Marry me, Pat. Marry me? I thought you were already married. Perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions. Should the court waste any more time on this Nipponese travesty? Or is the decision you have to make all too apparent already? You have heard all the witnesses and seen all of the evidence. This trial has run its course. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid we are in a terribly precarious position. I know, but if I fight back on the wrong way now, I could very well just make matters worse. Think, Renosuke, think. What do you do now? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, is Mr. Garadab and one of the jurors actually... Oh my gosh. Raise an objection.
Objection.
I'm not done yet. No, my learned friend, it's over. That last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast. There is no more room for debate. It might be over as far as you're concerned, but I can't think of what to say. If I may, Lord Van Zeeks, it seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point. Your insignificant little eastern isle must be a lawless hole indeed. For lowly judicial assistants, I have the audacity to intervene in a moment like this. Oh. I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you will have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential and her opinions invaluable. Mr. Naruhodo. One of this land's great guiding principles is tolerance, so the court will hear you, madam. Go ahead, Mr. Zato, please. Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see fit to pursue further? Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished. I see. Do you believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you? Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think? It's just possible that this new evidence might be the decisive proof you've been waiting for. Judge Acerta asked the members of the jury to announce their leanings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. You must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible. Yes, I understand, Han. Thank you, Mr. Zato. This is it. Zato-san has managed to win us one last chance here. And I cannot let this go to waste. The defense wishes to present evidence, my lord. Very well. The defense may present one further piece of evidence. Evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into the case and has hitherto been overlooked.
Take that!
The evidence in question is what we can see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. The fourth book found in the victim's hand. We have already discussed the fourth book at length. Other than it being in the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as you well know. I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe that the evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. I must insist that you elaborate, counsel. You will identify this clue at once. Do I make myself clear? Yes, my lord. It's Mr. Naruhodo. But the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of this evidence, which means you may very well be on the right track. Yes, I think you might be right. So, counsel, precisely where is the vital clue to this case in which the fourth book conceals?
Got it!
I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in question. The back? What do you... Good gracious! It's been burned to a crisp! So we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what was clearly an unreadable book? It is undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing.
Objection!
Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my Nipponese friend? Were I to concede the point if it bears no relation to the case, there is nothing to discuss. So, should you wish to assert that this fire damage is some wild clue as to what happened that day, pray, do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide? The charred book. There is just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance, certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory. Don't keep us waiting longer or anything, counsel. Explain this theory of yours. Reach until you can ascertain from the fire damage of the stone its owner. My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals a startling truth. About the book's owner. I beg your pardon? But we already know who the book belongs to. The victim was gripping it in her hand. Obviously hers. The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand has yet to be answered. However, as to the questions of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers. Good gracious, how can you possibly... Oh, very well, I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do you remember, the members of this jury may well burn you if your little gamble goes awry. Counsel, the defense's response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this burnt book?
Take that!
The answer is that the book belongs to the couple who owns the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb. The landlords? And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know, but... Of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this courtroom today is none other than Mrs. Garrideb herself. Oh my goodness. Me? I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garrideb's wife, I'm his maid. Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. Alright then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garrideb's house? I would never presume to know all the books he keeps, sir. This is outlandish behavior. This woman is the accuser's landlady, you say. You implicate this hardworking member of the public. You besmirch her without a shred of evidence. Your actions are unforgivable. This is not mere conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. Garrideb's house. Good lord, what sort of incident, counsel? A fire, my lord. Afraid to say it was. Happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. Valley furniture started going up as well. Worst of it, I lost my favorite book called The Lion's Pride. The Lion's Pride? Boy, Joe, the same title as that's the subject of this debate. Oh, dear me. This is risible. Why told the court that a book by the same name was involved in a fire? In which case, it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. And entirely unreasonable to infer that it was magically removed itself from the scene of the crime. Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was marital discord. Without going into details, it appears that Mrs. Garrideb was considerably enraged. Apparently, she continued to attack Mr. Garrideb even amid the flames. Oh, how awful. I can't even imagine being so horrid to you, my love. Can you, Raleigh? Absolutely not, son. My Patricia would never raise a finger against me, son. All my favorite old novels in that case, but as soon as the fire got a hold of them, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. And the wife started hurling things at me. There was I, back against the window, under heavy enemy fire. Incendiary books are coming 10 to the dozen. The man had his back up against the window, and he had burning books thrown at him? Goodness gracious, are you suggesting that the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime? No, a thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident, and there is no report of the Garrideb's window pane being broken. That's quite true. We also saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the Garrideb household. But is it not conceivable the window was open in the time? Not even remotely! Let's not forget the season, the chilling weather that accompanies it. No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter. Does the defense postulate this scenario in all seriousness, counsel? You earnestly claim that the book found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Garrideb's wife. I believe it's a possibility, my lord. That's quite enough. Well, I hope that everyone can see you for what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward, a mean coward. Really? Claiming they're a little tip so that the whole neighborhood will right. Honestly, but that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance's sake. How could you? It has nothing to do with this beastly case, not any of it. All you've done is sully our family's name. No, I assure you, that was never my intention. Dragging an upstanding citizen's name through the mud simply to divert attention to your failing defense. I should box your ears, that's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable. Do right? Here we go. How long have we sat here now listening to this nippity spouting out his fancy foreign theories? But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly have stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with the mustache as he ran away from the scene too. I do declare you're right. It's true. Yes, what did I tell you? Makes sense to me. Sorry. What's that? Well, it appears that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Van Zeeks? Gosh, did Garrideb actually kill? That'd be crazy. Indeed, my lord, feels these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. But then one must always exercise patience in order to savor the best vintage. No, wait. The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been. If books are your predilection, my learned friend, study them all in your own time. What? No forgive the discourtesy this time? In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, will now say your individual decision regarding the defense's culpability in the court to hear.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Again? Thank you for that unambiguous response. That's twice now. It's over. Mr. No, don't give up. Mr. Zato, have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet. You're not suggesting. Of course, the defense has the right to another summation examination at this point. You can still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance. My lord, the defense asks to exercise right for a summation examination. You believe you still have tricks up your sleeve? I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth. There's no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. I have to keep going. I'm supposed to do shorter episodes, but I don't care. I must figure out the truth. I can't believe it. I have considered the defense's counsel's request for a further summation examination to the jury. I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to its procedure. So, counsel, will you now proceed with your second summation examination? I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman. We are, my lord. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you to state clearly and concisely for the court the ground on which you find the defendant guilty of the crime. Accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his. If there was some novel, alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? Dearie me, it was only a little book, hardly life-threatening, even with a direct hit. Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tiny bit of trouble. Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. Gave me the sneezes. Considerably more tangible arguments from all members of the jury this time around, it seems. One notable exception, of course. My learned friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness's testimony. The court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene. Moreover, no one else was even at the scene to commit the crime. Well, the eyewitnesses are correct. It would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it could be argued any other way. That means I'm afraid that during the summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. How would we even constitute a tangible explanation here? Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed the woman? And how? Those two details are all you need to provide. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted. There, I was thinking this might be hard. Mr. Naruhodo, you have to do it, otherwise this really will be where the trial ends. No pressure then. Quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you are prepared, counsel? Yes, my lord. All right, Ryunosuke, focus your mind now. The key to this summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid. Or should I say Mrs. Garrideb. You were about to disappear from the Garrideb's house on the evening of the incident. A fourth book found in the victim's hands. Must be a way to link the two. Yes, that's what we have to find. There's never technique I've learned in my short career so far, whatever it takes. Don't forget to keep an eye on Mrs. Garrideb and how she reacts, even to things other people say.
Hold it!
As you now know, there are 4 books, not 3. Well, what difference does it make? There's a possibility that the 4th book, in fact, belongs to the defendant's landlord. Yes, that's the part I have a problem with. Sorry? Well, at the point the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? During a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said? That's not exactly how I put it, no. Well, anyway, point is, the fellow and his wife were somewhere else when it happened. I think that's what you call a strong alibi. It couldn't have been the landlord who did it, which only leaves the Nipponese fellow. Honestly, I can't even see what all this palaver is about. It's a done deal, isn't it? I have nothing witty left. Oh my gosh. Novel alternative explanation. So you might be willing to change your decision, you mean? Oh my, such delight on your face, but I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I am a very modern, metropolitan, and rational woman. That's great. If one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? That's why I read them in the first place. You see, modern, metropolitan, and not at all extreme. As I see it, an overwhelmingly suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelmingly strong testimony. Despite 1 or 2 minor puzzlements, I do declare that the man is overwhelmingly guilty. Modern, metropolitan, and rational logic, wouldn't you say? Overwhelming. Us modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know. But I'd only be happy to consider an exciting new theory if you could come up with one. I'd be happy to do that too, if only I could. Let's do our very best not to disappoint the modern and metropolitan young lady. Right, I'm glad you admitted rational there.
Hold it!
What about the possibility that the window was open? What about it? I mean, there's just no way it could have been open. How can you be so sure? Prosecution fellow there said it earlier, didn't he? Winners in London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors. So no, that window wasn't open. Us Londoners like sitting by the fire and staying warm, you see. You couldn't categorically say the window wasn't open, could you? It just wasn't. They wouldn't have opened it. What's the point of having windows, huh? Honestly, you will kindly refrain from childish bickering. Oh, sorry. Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable possibility that the window was open. Because this young man isn't going to budge otherwise.
Hold it!
But the little book was on fire at the time, was it not? With flames of love, I'll have you know. There's really no such thing as loving incendiary bomb. Well, he brought it upon himself. He is playing with fire to betray a fiery love, isn't it? Well, don't you agree? Well, any kind of betrayal is certainly a bad thing, yeah? I think the argument might have arisen out of your misunderstanding, Mrs. Garrideb. Never you mind that. The point is we were just having a jovial little dispute, nothing more. I wouldn't have any more of these suggestions that it wasn't anything to do with the crime. Well, we'll see about that. But what about juror number 5? He doesn't seem to be turning a hair at Mrs. Garrideb's relentless onslaughts. Looks like he's used to it. What a gentle soul he is.
Hold it!
You just want to get this over with? How could you sit there and say something like that? A man's future's at stake here. Well, him and me both like I said before. What? I told you already, I'm a day laborer, aren't I? If I don't bring home some bread reeds with me tonight, you'll find me floating face down in the Thames tomorrow morning. What? You heard me. My missus isn't one to mess about, you know. She can be fierce, believe you me. A shining example of marital bliss, then. Everybody like this cropped up the other day. It was, well, you know, it's funny, but I can't quite remember. Sorry? It was too Friday, that's the thing. I must have blocked it out. Helpful. Or Mr. Beat will ever be dragged into the Thames by a scarf. Don't even go there, Mr. Zato. There must be some way to jog his memory about this.
Hold it!
It's having to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case. Sorry, what's that? You'll have to speak up, lad. Could you tell us more about that fire? It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on the top, it did. What a sight to behold it was. Put candles on a cake? Was some kind of devil worship? Of course not, it was an angel cake. Celebrate my birthday, obviously. It seems that's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo. Anyway, I mustered all my put to blow them out. Only I must have blown wrong. Some of the flames didn't go up, but candles went flying all over the room. The furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke. Definitely sounds like devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold. But how did you catch a cold from a fire? What a fiasco was. The grandchildren, blessed them, they threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course, we had to open all the windows to clear it. The windows. Hot and winter, it rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave, it did. Caught a terrible cold from it. Put me in the hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry. I knew it was devil worship all along. Something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason. Demonstrate who from apart from Natsu could have attacked the young woman on the street, as well as how he or she could have done it. Yes, once again, the jurors' statements are full of personal prejudice. All of them seem convinced that they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. You're going to need to pit them against each other to force them to accept an alternative explanation. I don't necessarily need to find contradictions between their assertions, just a connection might do the trick. Alright, see if I can do. If anything stands out, I'll go for a strike. That's the spirit. I think I want to pit him against juror number 6.
Objection.
These two church statements are clearly contradicting one another. They do? How exactly, counsel? Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me. What? Huh? What was that you say? Speak up, lad. Oh, I must have actually tapped the key. Juror number 3, do you see? Oh, me? See what, sir? Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the... Oh! Exactly! On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garrideb household, and Mr. Garrideb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke.
Oh, my.
Oh, my hat.
Excuse me.
Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that? A lot of tea you're drinking. Mrs. Garrideb. Oh, dearie me. What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am? It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now. What is it? When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window? What, I beg your pardon? What are you insinuating? The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window. And what if we did? Oh, all right then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window, which can't have been easy since I continued to give him a justly deserved book battering. Even though your house was on fire. Oh, you never stop the rain until the anger subsides. It would be terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise. Of course, should have realized. That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You managed to establish that the window was open. You simply must have that added to Mrs. Gyarados' formal testimony.
Hold it!
Fourth book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book that Mr. Gyarados told us he had been reading. Well, I really couldn't say. On the day in question, did you or did you not throw out your husband a copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading? I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him. Now you come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right. Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset? Because I could, you insolent little man, I didn't remember. Times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on, as you well know. I really don't. Really knows I was throwing a book, much less that's the title of it.
Excuse me.
What is it, juror number 5? You know something? I remember what it was. The memory I blocked out. Huh? I was listening to what this granny was saying, brought it all flooding back. Who are you calling a granny, you cheeky devil? Either Mrs. Gyarados or the maid I'll have. The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being hit all the time. It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back home after work, put my hand in my pocket for the wages I just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out. Oh dear, what a disaster. You haven't heard the half of it, boy. Oh? The wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight, I've lost the day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear, stuck into the wall next to me, it did. About an inch deep. No. I could smell it then, you know. That god-awful stench of the Thames. I was sure I was going to end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I can tell you. Now that's a real disaster, isn't it? I'll never use the word lightly again. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rag, they'll throw anything, knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it. Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. No, I wasn't thinking that. Throwing household objects at people is, well, it's so uncivilized. At least attack with honor, using a bow or the like. What? Attack? Who are you going to attack? Oh, never mind. Anyway, this man's words could be rather significant, I think. All right, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare.
Hold it!
Do I really throw a kitchen knife at you? That's right, she was chopping meat with it. I had a tidy edge on it, I believe me. Still, it's all memories, isn't it? Started with that smile she threw at me when we were recording. Since then, the list of things she's thrown at me has grown along with our relationship. There's a cup, then a glass, then a pot, a kettle, a chair, a wardrobe, a cooker, a bathtub. Your wife must be even beefier than you. Things came to head last week when she threw me right into the Thames. Still, she's not so bad when she's calmed down. She's a little sweetheart, really. I'm so happy for you. You want to know what I think? I think this whole idea of ladies first that we're so obsessed with in this country was taught by some clever lads who've been taught to the things from a few too many times with their wives. Wow. That's a very interesting theory. What a terrible thought. On the face of it, this juror's statement just sounds like a really extreme anecdote. But I think it might turn out to be an extremely powerful weapon. But I might be able to use to make the jurors accept an alternative explanation here. Could we do an alternative explanation? An alternative explanation? These two statements clearly have a deeply significant connection. Good grief, you mean they don't contradict each other? Explain, counsel, at once. Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative? Oh man, whatever do you mean? An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back. What are you talking about? We've demonstrated that the fourth book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Gyarados' room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Gyaradev household onto the street below. What's that now? After all, Mrs. Gyaradev could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4? What are you insinuating now, you little beanpole? I'm beginning to think that ever since the true origins of this book came to light, I just had a feeling this might be what had happened. Now, you listen here, you Easter gal. At this 4 minutes, I demand a straight answer. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house. But what? What was it? I'm gonna take a big gamble here. That was a bold accusation to me, but I haven't even real evidence to back it up. But I'm certain that at the very least, this warrants further investigation. Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Gyaradev household to the scene of the crime was...
Take that!
Worry about the claim that Mrs. Gyaradev stabbed. Juror number 4, Mrs. Gyaradev? What? What now? I must apologize in advance for this. I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife? Have you ever seen this knife before? Good Lord, Count, what on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged with the victim's back, man. My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Gyaradev were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Gyaradev was hurling anything she could at her husband, who had been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke, through which a book sailed to land at the crime scene. You can't seriously believe the book was found in the victim's grasp? Are you saying that it flew out of the window and across the street, and neatly in her hand? Huh? If my missus ain't got a name like that. Yes, I admit, there are many details we don't yet understand, but that's the point. That's precisely why... We must not allow this trial to end, not right now. Oh my. Mrs. Gyaradev, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before or not? My lord. I wish to change my decision. I'm a woman of my word, after all. Thank you, madam. Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end now with so many unanswered questions. Mr. Foreman. I'd have to agree. Not that I think the granny did it, mind. Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either. All together now, ladies and gents. Gosh, what if Mr. Gyaradev... Because it could have been Mr. Gyaradev. Or no. I don't even know what's going on. Are we actually suggesting that Mrs. Gyaradev accidentally stabbed the victim? Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo. So as a result of the defense's summation examination, the number of jurors' leanings have changed. The jurors called guilty against 4, now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided. And this trial will continue. Wild. Now then, Lord Van Zieks, how does this prosecution wish to proceed? This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. What's up, Keeper? Like a corked wine, the first few sips are bitter enough. What follows is so repugnant it's good for nothing save the gutter. If I may, Lord Van Zieks. The defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened. Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke to which I barely know how to respond, but let me start by insisting. You must all familiarize yourself better with the relative positions of those places being discussed. What do you mean by that? What's his angle this time? It should already be more apparent that between the crime scene and the Gyaradev household, a rather wide street, Briar Road. Which means that the distance from the Gyaradev's house to the scene is some 15 yards. Let me see, 15 yards, 14 meters. 14 meters? Oh, that's a little farther than I'd imagined. And as you ladies and gentlemen of the jury rightly noted as having potential significance, the fourth book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, a smoldering book wantonly hurled by the lady of the house travels some 15 yards. Then on the opposite side of the road, neatly between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb. Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend? No, actually. And did the jackknife follow a near identical trajectory to plunge into the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Maybe those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. Nothing I can say to that. That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice. Mr. Zato. Serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he? Maybe let's pick our battles here. My lord, might I be allowed to speak? As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense, yes? Go ahead. The prosecution may consider the idea of a fantasy. What the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leaning. And as such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. To that end, juror number 4, Mrs. Joanne Garadeb, must be called to testify and submit a cross-examination. Saints alive! A cross-examination of a juror? Order, order, order! This is highly irregular. It is unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand. And unnecessary. Lord Van Zeeks? There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth in it, that both a burning notebook and a jackknife must have thrown through the scabbard before this couple's eyes, we must assume they would be able to testify accordingly. What say you, witnesses? Yes, sir. Constable Royal Beat reporting for duty, sir. Well, good morning, officer. Sorry for dozing until now. Sir, I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared on my beat, sir. Oh, they are so heroic, these London bobbies. Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more. Oh, Raleigh, my hero, you make me swoon. Oh my gosh. Very well, I hereby reject the defense's request. Oh. In order the witnesses in the stand to testify again. Say forward before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events. Yes, sir! This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Garadeb are top-hinged casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, he would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Raleigh was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. I didn't take my eyes off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Quite startling. Top-hinged casement windows. That detail was not in the police report, Constable. Yes, sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy. Ahem. You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable. No, sir. Sorry, but... what exactly is a top-hinged casement window? And you cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. Of course, sorry. I found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows of Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's room. Alright, I'll try. The window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house. But the top-hinged casement window as it swings open along the upper edge, you see. Glad you rectified your ignorance. A casement window's most prominent feature is its stay, a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount. It prevents it opening? It's news to me. Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or a knife were to have been thrown through the open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below. No. You see the problem then? Good. Your education in windows is complete. There's never any possibility of either the book or knife traveling 15 yards over the road. I don't think it did. I think the book fell right down, and they... I don't know. There's unless the window pane had been shattered. Unless... I mean, we discounted already. That can't be... See that, Raleigh? The Japanese man just collapsed in agony. Oh, yes, man, on the side. I saw how he crumbled before me. Oh, Raleigh, you're so strong. What is happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and already my argument's been destroyed. Counsel, if you could drag yourself upright again, there will correlate your cross-examination. My lord. What a desperate situation.
Hold it!
How can you say that for certain? Very good question, sir. And the answer is this. It is a noble founding principles of the fort with written on it. It is a right to all policemen of our sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he? Did he? I can't say I remember. Patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. It's what the job's all about. That is why I can stand here to say but I'm a long-suffering wife and tell you Bobby's good for his word. I'm rubbing my tired eyes and admittedly... Sir! Oh, Raleigh, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, pet. Oh, Raleigh. No, this is what I'm... I mean, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett? Ah, I see, sir. You should have said so earlier, sir. Yes, well, so could you answer the question? Absolutely, sir. I will answer to the fullest of my ability, sir. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. Before I get into that, sir, just one thing. Yes? Very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you take back some tales to us London Bobbies and how we uphold our guiding principles. I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here. To that end, sir, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your personnel, but I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears. Thank you, I'll try. A policeman will strive to pursue the peace within his allotted beat. A patrolling officer expected to walk 20 miles around his beat to the furthest degree of relations. Any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they are discovered. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist in initial investigation. Okay.
Hold it!
By which you mean they don't open fully, is that correct? Yes, sir. They're just here to allow a bit of air through the house, you see? So they're restricted as to how much they open. Therefore, they throw it out the window from the inside of the room, when simply straighten the pane and fall on the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here is the location where objects would have fallen. Yes, directly opposite the scene of the crime, on the other side of the rather wide road. Would have been so hard for somebody to mention the top engagement thing before. No, Ryunosuke, this is really important information. And what would that be, sir? How do you even know? Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's house is furnished with? Well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday.
Excuse me.
You have something to add, Mrs. Beats? Sorry. You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that? Oh, I was just remembering. That's all. We really were so lucky. Lucky? What do you mean? Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. We were just so lucky it didn't happen on Raleigh's beat. It was so close, you see. Oh, I hadn't realized. Oh yes, that street, Briar Road, that's the boundary between Raleigh's beat and the next one. Isn't that right, my love? Constable Beat? Huh? Oh, yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with interviewing the occupants at the Garrett household yesterday. The house is on my beat, you see, sir. That really was cutting it close then. Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garrett household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it is as well? Outside Mr. Garrett's house? Yes, ma'am. That pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat. I see, I was unaware of that. Just think if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of the Briar Road, we would never have been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of a Bobby, after all. Extraordinary people are Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners. You know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way of rewarding my Raleigh for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling? That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it. I think perhaps you should make sure we have that information officially on record. If it's me, Miss Naruto, I'll take care of it immediately. Now it's my turn, I think.
Hold it!
According to my notes here, the sun had got down already and it was dark. Oh, but Ron and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for our lucky star. Sorry? The star that will guide us to eternal happiness. And it guided and answered the question. The flaming book had cut across the sky in front of us. It would have lit up like a shooting star. And if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. There'd really be an inspector, I would have said those 3 times at least. Of course, but with the smog and everything, I didn't actually see any stars. In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you? Yes, sir, that is correct, sir. I'm sure the night sky in London is starless, sir. It seems like they're telling the truth. Then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her.
Hold it!
Yeah, it's easy one to a nearby police box to fetch other officers, is that right? That's right, yes. If it had been on Raleigh's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course. Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box at every beat. So Raleigh told me the way, only I sort of got a little lost on the way. Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pat. Oh, Raleigh. Oh, my gosh. Oh, please. So I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. Like I said, my Raleigh was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed. I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sir. I didn't take my eyes off the crime scene for one moment. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Nothing to report. That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time. Never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene. Nothing was removed from it. I can swear that on the yard's honor, sir. Really, that seems a little strange. Beg your pardon, sir. Strange, sir. Seems altogether regular to me. This burnt copy of the Lion Sparrow was originally in the Garrett household. So the question remains, how did it find its way into the hand of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time? Aha! Could it be a different copy, sir? Well, it just happened to be burnt as well. Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As you can see from the photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived at the scene. Is that so? Something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. Two mysteries of how that knife ended up in her back and how the book ended up in her hand. There must be some common thread between them. Can I ask you something, please, Mr. Lawyer, sir? Oh, yes, of course. What is it? You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell. What? I wasn't really, what's she doing? Please, just because I'm a woman, it doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. You might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am. I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you. No excuses, I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, will you let me speak, won't you? Yes, Mrs. Beat, I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one. That was a very loud mutter. I heard that. That Japanese man thinks a policeman's wife's word counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my Raleigh won't. Oh my gosh, Keeper. Duly noted, Mrs. Beak. Please, I only ask you to continue. What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder? She definitely... Last time she supplemented something. Last time she supplemented her testimony, it led to the trial continuing. Mrs. B, nobody's questioning what you've told us. I saw it, I did. That evening, I saw it clearly. The little Eastern man with the whiskers and the funny curved back singing away from the sing. And I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky. All very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction. Oh, yes. Well, that's a little embarrassing, really. I'm always ending up at the wrong place when I made arrangements to meet Raleigh. He gets ever so cross.
Excuse me.
Constable Beat, is there a problem? Is this trial about to ruin the relationship? No, sir. No problem, sir. Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind, perhaps? Oh, well, in a way, sir. Yes, sir. I was just remembering that the same thing happened that evening is all. You mean Mrs. B lost her way on the night of the incident? Well, you see, I sent her out to find a police box in the next beat over for mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes. My Don was gone a good 15. Oh, Raleigh, you're such a tease. The reason I was long because of the bouquet, silly. Bouquet? Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about? Oh, it was a present for our wedding anniversary. Raleigh's so romantic. He stayed up with her with his fatherings and happenings he found in the gutter while doing his rounds. Yes, how romantic. I've forgotten all about it until just now. Had you, my darling? Yes, but that was just between us. I'm talking about anyone else, darling. You had to promise. Really? Oh. What was that all about? Constable B looked very troubled during that exchange. I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm quite sure of one thing. We have to ask Mrs. Beat about the bouquet. Mrs. Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned, I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please. Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to. I dropped my bouquet.
Hold it!
Okay. Hold it! You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime? Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over and saw I was a woman with a knife in her back, I was so shocked. I dropped the bouquet Raleigh gave me. It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any lights, so I didn't notice it first. And then you went to the police box and reported to the policeman whose beat it was on? Yes, I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again. The funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all. In case you need reminding, Mrs. Beat, the victim is not deceased. I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road. Your husband, presumably? That's right, silly me, I'd gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although I'm going to blame the bouquet this time. I can't think of how it got there, I really can't. Can't somehow move from one side of the briar to the opposite? Curious indeed. What if it was not the bouquet that moved, but everything else? That beautiful rose Raleigh brought me, with that change in the gutter he spent for so long collecting? By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this solitary rose? Oh, yes, that's it! That's the bouquet Raleigh brought me for our anniversary with odd bits of change he found in the gutter. Maybe just call it a rose. Tell us, Lord Van Zeeks, where did you come by the flower? According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Garadeb household. In front of the Garadeb's house? Although it wasn't noticed until the morning as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. It is believed to be of no relevance to the case since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare. Oh, thank you, sir, thank you. Can I have it back now, please? No, I think for good measure, this rose should be added to the court record as evidence. Oh. But it's a symbol of our love. I want it back after the trial. Do you hear me? I want it back. Good grief. Rest assured that I should do my very best not to forget, Mrs. Beast.
Hold it!
What about it? Now, two mysteries. What do you make of all this? Yes. The whole idea of an invisible attacker has been troubling me all along. But I believe I'm starting to get a picture of what really happened here now. The fourth point that I had no business being at the scene of the crime made me sure that Mrs. Garrett was hiding something from us. But it's becoming increasingly clear that someone else has been hiding something from us as well. I may already be armed with everything I need to strike a decisive blow here. This time, it's going to expose the whole truth about this mysterious affair. English rose, such beautiful flower. This rose is it? I've never seen one before. Do you not take an interest in flowers, Mr. Naruto? I wouldn't say that exactly, but I do know 3 types at least. Gosh, there are 3. Yes, plum blossom, peach blossom, and cherry blossom. Perhaps you should consider branching out, learning some that aren't fruit-based, for example. Very stylish paper the flowers wrapped in, isn't it? It's just an old newspaper, Mr. Naruto. Oh. So it's because I'm not used to seeing English paint. It looks so exotic. Ah, I see. Nothing wrong. Oh, no. I was just thinking that if you had a stone-baked sweet potato, it might look like some fancy cake. Sato-san, you do love your cakes. I think, okay, so here's where my logic is. All right, so here's what I think I'm trying. This is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that if you said nothing was strange about the crime scene, then where did the bouquet go? I think that's what I'm trying to say. Here's what I think is happening right now. I think that they moved the crime scene, that they dropped the bouquet in front of the Garrett house, and move the crime scene, forgetting about the bouquet. I need some water real quick. I'm getting kind of warm. Give me a second, guys. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So I did leave the scene, but my trusty Raleigh there was to make sure nothing was disturbed.
Hold it!
I'm gonna press this one more time. All right, I'm just gonna go for it.
Objection!
You claim, Constable Beat, that there was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were during the scene. That cannot be. Okay. What do you mean to say? In your testimony just now, Mrs. Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby. Yes, on the opposite side of the Briar Road where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of that medium-grade bouquet, if a single star blossom can be described, no doubt it was blown into the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs.
Objection!
Nigger. But if that were the case, why did Constable Beat not testify to the fact? No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beat swore that on Scotland Yard's honor. Bouquet belonged to me. It has nothing to do with the case. That's why I didn't mention it, I'm sure. No, because sadly, it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way around. What are you talking about? Think about it. Besides Mrs. Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Garrett's book. Mr. Garrett's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out of the window by his wife, would have stuck the pane of the casement window and landed here on the west side of the street. And yet, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Mrs. Beat's bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime on the east side of the street. But in fact, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in front of Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's house. There's no logical explanation for those things, unless somebody deliberately moved them. What are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my Raleigh has done something wrong. You listen to what that scrying lawyer says. We're really not about books and bouquets. Why should we care? It's nitpicking, that's what it is. Oh, good. Mrs. Garrett's come around. You might call it nitpicking, Mrs. Garrett, but deliberately meddling with the scene of the crime is a criminal offense. It's called, tampering, Mr. Naruhodo. But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it for very subtle but compelling reason. Tampering? You've barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend. Who would possibly have had any cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there is someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all the testimony points to that one particular person. Counsel, I must demand they substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime?
Take that!
Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Raleigh Beat, it was you. What? A policeman? Member of Scotland Yard? What nonsense? Why would my Raleigh do something like that? There's no straighter than my husband. Nobody works more tirelessly for the people of London. Mrs. Beat, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go out to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 50 minutes that you were absent from the scene was the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it. You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about the Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it. If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it. Oh. And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene. Well. First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate a policeman as well? But your accusation lacks one very important thing. You claim the crime scene was tampered with. There's only one reason anyone would commit such a reckless crime: to hide something. That's right, he's right. But my husband and I just happened to be there. That's all. So why would we have anything to hide? Doesn't make sense. You've offered no motive for this alleged tampering. And until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats. Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery? Counsel, would you have made a very serious accusation against a London police officer? You are mistaken. I'm sure I need not point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably damaged. With that stark warning in mind, you will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering. Yes, my lord. Candle Beat's motive for tampering with the crime scene was to hide where the victim fell. Where the victim fell to the ground. That is what the Bobby had to cover up at all costs. What? Where the victim fell? Do you mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Row. We saw it happen, remember? It was right here, as if anyone didn't already know. That's certainly what everybody has been led to believe. But in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all. What? What? Beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, Counsel. If that's your assertion, then the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening?
Take that!
That's on the opposite side of the road? I don't understand. On the evening in question, Mr. Garrett's book fell directly down from the open window above, and your bouquet, Mrs. B, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself. Good gracious! Oh, he knows.
Objection!
Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. These witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place. That's right. I saw it with my own eyes. It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was a typical London fog on the ground. When you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid, that was actually on the west side of Briar Road. That's not true. It can't have been. Constable Beat had arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. During the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. He moved all things shown in this print. The victim herself, the 4 books, moved everything, in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road. Extraordinary. The constable overlooked one thing. What? What did he overlook? The bouquet, I presume? Exactly. The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Zeek said it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. Yes, it couldn't have been seen in the dark, obviously, which is why it was the only bouquet that it was found in its original position on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. And that is the defense's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond? Constable Royally Beat. Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, but I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important? Oh, Raleigh. It isn't true. What the lawyer says all lies, isn't it? I know it is, because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know. I had a dream. Terrible dream. All the things I did that night. Everything come out. Everything exposed. Only it seems it wasn't a dream at all. Good golly. Order. What on earth is the meaning of all this? Raleigh, why would you do something like this? Moving to corpses is a criminal offense, isn't it? Wishing the victim dead should be one too. Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland, your duty is to protect the good people of London town. I can't say, sir. What? I really am ever so sorry about all this. For damaging the Yard's reputation, for everything. I have a possible explanation for why on that particular evening, Constable Beetle felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason. What? How could you possibly know? You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman? And yet, Lord Van Zeeks, it is the Forerunner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. Dang, get wrecked. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you please. Yes, my lord. Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence. At once, my lord. England, Japan. Makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions. What gives away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions? I think it's his book. Suspected to walk 20 miles. Any crime under the jurisdiction, the policeman must assist in the initial investigation. So I believe it is his warrant card.
Take that!
I realize that I'm a foreigner in this land and I have only just arrived from Japan, which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I've learned that through honorable patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example. Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on this beat in all kinds of ways, there's no doubt that the young Bobby is charged with a great deal each day, certainly. But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special. Special? How? On account of this bouquet, my lord? Oh yes, it was our very first wedding anniversary. Constable Beat, I worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was so looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal, when he and Mrs. Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. When he saw that shadowy figure through the frog collapse on the pavement ahead of him, what must have gone through the man's mind? What? So, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat puts up with a lot being married to a Bobby like me. Wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to lend to me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Aha! Constable Beat? Is that or is that not the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day? Yes. Everything you said, it's all right. So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beats. Oh. Exactly. To summarize, the incident actually occurred on Constable Beat's beat. Good gracious. Constable, do you realize the gravity of what you have done? It was the first time since I became a copper that I'd ever cursed God. Get close to me, Pat. Criminals should be lurking somewhere. As he ran over to the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. We've got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then it dawned on me. I realized where we were, where the victim was lying, and what that meant for me. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why did this have to happen here? And why tonight, of all nights? Why? The copper's job to guard the scene of the crime, so I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then, when I opened my mouth to speak, it just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the next beat to mine, Pat. So you have to go to the police box that covers it. Turn right along Mearsham Street and then... It's actually really sad. Aww. Aww. I'm sorry. That's actually really sad. Just wanted to spend time with his beloved. Oh, Constable. I just wanted, just that one night, to take my Patricia out for dinner. Oh, Raleigh. Just that one night. You knew that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would be ruined. And so you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction, just across the street, to the east pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighboring beach's care. You see, I thought, well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see. I beg your pardon? Of course he did. Otherwise, my Raleigh would never have let the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement. I see your meaning now. God got me back from my sins, didn't he? Okay, alright, okay. Okay, this is bad theology. This is terrible theology. Awful theology. I disagree with that statement that was said. Anyway, we're gonna move on. That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat. Oh no, Raleigh, this was all my fault. I should never have dropped in such a dark place. I'm so sorry, Raleigh. Can you tell us, Constable? How many books did you move from the one side of the road to the other in total? Huh? Oh, 4 it was. Yes, definitely 4. 3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsumi, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garrett household, of course. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? And all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean. Oh, well, that's because that's how I found it. How you found it? What do you mean? When we first went over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. You're sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding? Okay, here's what I think happened. I think the book fell out as she was walking by. She went down to pick it up, and because Mrs. Garrett was throwing stuff, the knife was also thrown out and fell onto her back. Oh yes, sir, no doubt about it, sir. Interesting. I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only 2 people at the scene. Pat and me both saw it happen. However, which way you looked at it, it had to be the fellow who ran off who done it, I thought. I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of difference. I suppose this is it for me now. I've had it. I am proud of myself for being like, the books in this picture are weird. My lord. Yes, Lord Van Zeeks? I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw. Yes, sir. Mr. Prosecutor, sir. What will become of my Raleigh? What will happen to him? For now, you are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course. Please, don't punish my husband. This is all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late. Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired. All right, then, my love. One last thing, Constable. Sir, let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you. Yes, sir. Carve that lesson in your mind. And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime. Huh? Never again, sir? You mean to say... Leave now. This trial is not yet over. Sir! Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Who ever thought of a third party transplanting the entire crime scene like that? Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here. Principally, that the accused, Mr. Sasuke Natsumi, is the only person who could have possibly committed this crime. No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back. You mean for being presumptuous? But I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already. Or Van Zeeks, is this true? Very well. Name the person if you will, and if further investigation is warranted, the prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing. You will name this other person who could have perpetrated the crime. Not sure if I'm supposed to, which one I'm supposed to do. I suppose she's the one that threw the stuff.
Take that!
So we're gonna... The defense would once again like to request a cross-examination of a new witness, my lord. Once again, my assistant made the same request earlier. In order to finally reveal the truth about this case, it's imperative we cross-examine juror number 4, Miss Joanne Garrett. Me, oh dearie me. That request has already been denied. But the situation is very different now. Mrs. Garrett, answer me this. What do you want now, you little toad? At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garrett. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited, and to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks out over Briar Road. Well, what of it? You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open top hinge of the casement, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the incident. Yes, and as I said, what of it? During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garrett. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before? I don't recall it. Seriously? Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? Anyway, the man over there and all the regalia said that members of the jury need to testify, didn't he? Conveniently, yes. No, I have no recollection of saying that at all. Number 4? Oh? Make no mistake, your jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out. But that's just a common garden knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have several just like that at home. If one were missing, how could you expect me to know? What's that? Are you joking? What are you saying? Please, Mrs. Garrett. Now you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought that I had injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. The poor woman. So yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. You're going to have to prove to me that I threw that knife if that's what you think. Come along now. Chop chop. Do your worst. Well. Mr. Naruhodo, if I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already. I take the stand, juror. Oh? The prosecution does not object to the defense's request that I cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Van Zieks. I'm going to have to testify? Juror number 4, as I'm sure you will appreciate having observed it with your own eyes today, witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed, truths of which the witnesses themselves may not even have been aware. Oh, dearie me. Yeah, I agree, Keeper. Well, Van Zieks, he's definitely very reasonable. He's pretty brutal at times and jumps to conclusions. However, as long as you actually establish like a legitimate course of action, he will follow it. At least in the 2 cases we've had with him so far. Mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels? Certainly, my lord. Oh, that's what I was hoping for, my lord. I agree with you there, Dread. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I'm here and the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer. Let's go, Ryunosuke. Witness, state your name and occupation. Oh, yes, my name is Joan Garrett, and I'm, well, I'm a juror and such like. It sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife or a maid or what anymore. Court has decided your testimony was required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madam? Yes, my lord. You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth. Oh, dearie me. Chin up, Joni. Nothing to worry about now. I kind of figured he'd show up. Oh, I didn't know you were here, John. Wasn't only you in the room that day, old thing, was it? Rather think I ought to testify as well, don't you? But what about your knee, dear? Don't you worry about that. I hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone. Oh, John. I presume you are Mr. John Garrideb? Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Seen my fair share of action and now living the quiet life, as it were. A quiet life? Were you not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse in the day in question? Well, yes. Quite. I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of the British courts. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the day of the incident in question. Sir, at once. Battle of the Garrideb. Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Got the candlestick over and set the fire to the carpet. Soon had it out, though. Got the window open. Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him. Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say notice of 1 or 2 went missing, I'm afraid. That ballad thing in the victim's deck really was one of ours. You'll have a job proving it, I think. Sounds as though it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening. Although an entirely one-sided assault, it seems. The enemy caused a top, sir. Had no choice but to dig in and take defensive maneuvers. To be honest, if the enemy had kept showing us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Of course, veterans such as myself. There's only 2 aware than on every battlefield. You're just a gnat's whisker from death at any moment. Are you still talking about a marital quarrel here? Well, I must say I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife. In combat, one's focused and arrows such surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end. At least maybe we'll be right. Well, whatever the chances, we only have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, I'm afraid so. Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination. Find out next. No, I'm just kidding. I would never end the episode right here.
Hold it!
The reason is what you told us yesterday, I believe. Yes, that's right. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was tucked into the pages of a book belonging to Mr. Garrideb. A rather passionate note, in fact, but Mrs. Garrideb found the note, discovering her husband's little secret. And she gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it, too. What a sordid state of affairs. Hell on earth. I say, when a chapter they can't recall things, it's common decent enough to drag it all up. Besides, half of it was wide of the mark anyway. A likely story. These waters run very deep. And what transpired next after these multiple blows to the face?
Hold it!
The fire also spread to some items of furniture, didn't it? A bookcase, my armchair, anything of mine, really. As it happens, there was some bathwater around that evening, so I sloshed that about to put it out. Most precarious situation you put yourself in. Ours is a 3-story townhouse on the west side of the street where the water main isn't connected yet. I have to draw water from a public water pump during the day if you need any, you see. Lodgers are always moaning that they can't get any water at night, although a little mustache Japanese man buys water in bottles, I believe. The defendant, Mr. Natsumi, you mean? Yes, but she's a stipend for her studies, you know. For his home country. Can you imagine being able to brew a pot of tea at all hours? He's obviously very well off. Have you actually seen the state of the man? I believe he uses all of his income to buy books. Well, anyway, point is, I was able to douse the fire with water. Fire with water, fortunately enough. Well, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him. Even though the room was on fire, as far as I was concerned at the time, It's more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw. That is most certainly not true, Mr. Sawa Takedown, Mr. How did you know I was thinking that? So please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day? No, honestly, I don't recall. But I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, and a sponge.
Fine.
Napkin.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, sir? Mr. Gyarados. Don't shoot. Sorry. I beg your pardon? Did your wife's remarks just now bring something to mind? Nothing of any significance, no. Just that the barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in my direction was somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and fire poker, I seem to recall. Ouch. The woman's aim is uncanny. She landed a direct hit with every volley. Good grief, woman, we're not at home now. This is a court of law. Oh, dearie me. Ever so sorry, dear. What's she been doing with a teapot in here? Honestly, John, I would never have thrown such things at you, obviously. Well, take a look at this, then. How do you suppose that happened? Your pipe, sir? Listening to my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Not to clean out with one of her soft projectiles she did, yes? When I went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I like to see a sponge do that sort of damage. I see. Your pipe was broken. Would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I managed to bandage the thing up for now. You are one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear? Wonder what we should make of this account. It could be important. Fetch, please, Mr. Gyarados worked out are of great significance. This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife, and pipes as well as hearts may be broken. Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to the formal testimony. Indeed, common sense, one might say. Might one? In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir? Well, I don't see why not. Dearie me, there you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady. Very well, the court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence. Hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down. Oh no, it's fine. Thanks to Suzawa-san, we have some new evidence to work with. Hi, Kirby, how are you? Well, thank you for that rebuttal, Mr. Gyarados. Now we can return to the crux of the matter. What can you tell the court about the knife used to attack the victim? Oh ho! There's a little chip mark here. Small nick of the bowl here. Look, it appears to have been made up relatively recently. See how little the scrapes and dents are over it? It's clearly a well-loved. Oh, that's how the tip broke off. The knife tip broke off. Seems recently. I think the nick has catching my eye though, because it's clearly new. Oh my gosh. Something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe there. Yes, I saw it. It's been stuck in there, I think. Give it a shake. A tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. Tip of a blade? Surely it couldn't be. Okay, I'm not gonna jump the gun. I'm gonna press.
Hold it!
I agree, Kirby. How did he not notice that? Would you care to elaborate? Nothing to say, really. You're rather partial to a spot of carving. You see, pipes and whatnot, finishing tackle. You know the sort of thing. It's a passion we both share. I like to carve little wood trinkets, too. Excuse me. There's a leather work. Fair to say, we're always really nice about the place, and we have dozens of the things. I sell them at the market sometimes. Only for the price of 19. Needless to say, I snap them up. John prefers to use 2 knives at a mealtime, too, instead of just a fork and knife. I know, Joe. We don't want people thinking I'm some kind of savage. Ah! Here we go again with the scaldings. Why are they being so evasive? Maybe because they don't want to believe it. They can't bear the thought that it might have been one of their knives that injured the victim. This is not understandable, of course, but still. Go on with your testimony. Witnesses. Sir.
Hold it!
You have no intention of admitting it was your knife, unless you can produce proof. Even though there is no other credible evidence for these mystery. Whoa. Okay. You forget, my Nipponese friend, that it has yet to be established that the accused is not responsible for the attack. If I could forget. There's some way to know who had handed this knife. I suppose wizardry like that is just a dream? Perhaps you're thinking of fingerprinting, Mr. Naruhodo. What? You mean it's not a dream? But wizardry really exists? Well, whenever people touch anything, they leave behind a unique pattern from their skin. Or they say. But I can't see anything. There are already countries in the world where these so-called fingerprints can be used as evidence. Our Strongheart is currently discussing the matter at the Ministry of Justice. Yes, I believe we are rapidly approaching an era of scientific methods of investigation. But for now, we shall have to find an alternative method of proving our assertion. But this knife found in the victim's back was originally in Mr. and Mrs. Garredeb's house. I could transplant this incident to several years in the future. No, we got this. That's the extent of their testimony, is it? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I think we've heard all this before, to be honest. I can't say I'm particularly confident that we'll be able to prove anything new from the assessment. I do! In this cross-examination, it's absolutely essential that we establish how this knife came to be at the scene of the incident. Yes, I know. I'm sure both of them must be feeling very worried. Or that it was, in fact, a knife belonging to one of them that caused the victim's injury. If we could find even a tiny shred of evidence to support that theory, it would clinch this trial for us. It would explain everything. Yes, it would. For Soseki-san's sake, we must. We must find that last crucial piece of evidence.
Hold it!
No, I wanted to press... I pressed the wrong button.
Objection!
Sorry. I pressed press instead of the court record.
Objection!
Mr. Garredeb, can I ask you to take a good look at this, please? You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing. You can't? You used to call me Dead-Eye Deb back in the regiment, of course. But that was some time ago now, when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days. I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest. Oh, he does, dearie me. It's rather wearing being asked about every other letter and every other word. You must D very... What is that? A tiny scrap of metal? Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first to be just a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the defense come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Garredeb's pipe. My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got there. And what percentage does this fragment of metal signify, Counsel? Are you suggesting that it is in some way related to the matter of the stabbing of Briar Road? I am. What? When put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record? I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord. You're rather confident in that extraordinary statement, Counsel. Very well, then. Present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence, when paired with this fragment of metal, allegedly reveals the truth of this entire case?
Take that!
This is the knife that was found in the victim's back. If you look closely, you will see that there is a small piece at any tip of the blade that is missing. A common issue with the inferior blade sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in the victim's bones. What of this particular knife? No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim. Nope, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is a very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Gyarados' pipe. Ah! Oh! Good grief, Lord Van Zeeks! I don't believe it! The knife from the crime scene and this fragment of metal are a perfect match! Good golly gosh! Order, order, order! Is this some sort of Eastern sorcery? This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle. A miracle? Van Zeeks has figured it out, has he? Council, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once. Yes, my lord. The crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is when did the fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Gyarados' pipe? Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony. As in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did? Yes. Never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Oh, dearie me. During the argument between these two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Gyarados flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Gyarados and instead striking the pipe in his hand at the time. Caused the tip to break off, of course. Good lord, yes. And that's when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Gyarados' pipe. The chances of that are 1,000,000 to 1. And yet there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted out the pipe and flew out of the open window. In short, this knife, which fell from the window of the Gyarados' house, is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below. Gosh, oh dear, oh no!
Objection!
Let's see, where's he going to throw the chalice this time? Is he going to break it or throw it? A full-bodied theory. I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's characteristic and Nippone's approach to bottling his argument. Sorry? But after all, it is just a theory. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because you see... It's spoiled by an insurmountable inconsistency. An insurmountable... What? Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself. What is this inconsistency you claim to have identified? An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with the knife planted in the middle of her back. Yes? In her... That's right. You silly little man. Oh, Joan, old thing. What are you getting so excited about? Let's consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. If the knife was struck from falling from above, it would have hit her head. There's no possible way it could have planted itself into the victim's back. Yeah. No. We can explain this. We already know. She picked up the book. She picked up the book. We already know this. Order. Quite right. You see, that's exactly right. If it had fallen on her from above, it would have struck her on the top of her head. Well, he's lost for words. Look. I knew it. I never liked this theory in the first place. I don't know, though. What really did happen? Oh, I already know the answer! Let me answer! It would appear the defense has made a rather spectacular blunder. No, I haven't. The theory has one inconsistency it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history. No, it's not. No, it's literally so obvious. You were so close. We are close. We have it. We have the truth. Oh my gosh. No, we haven't. It's not an inconsistency. Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency. The theory will stand. Yes, Miss Susato. Miss Susato was smart. Oh my gosh. No, Bongo does not... No, Captain Dread, no. We were just caught off guard. Your mind went blank. But if the path you were on is indeed correct, then a way will present itself. Key to this is the court record, I'm sure. All the information you need is there. It seems you have nothing to say, my Nipponese friend. Your silence speaks volumes. A tacit approach to your theory that's fatally flawed.
Objection!
This inconsistent doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. That's a test. Yes. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way that it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is. What are you implying? Counsel? There is a piece of evidence that in the courtyard that can explain this inconsistency. Explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer. Goodness, utter madness. Surely this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak. It's either going to be the picture or the book. This is the last inconsistency, the final piece in the puzzle. I can successfully make sense of this. The truth will be very last. The evidence that explains how the falling knife became lodged in the victim's back is... Let's see, this was in the victim's hand.
Take that!
It is the fourth book. This, the fourth book found at the scene. This is the final piece of evidence the defense will present. Oh. Epic. Just epic music. The burnt book? Is that not Mr. Garrett's book? Yes, and to understand its significance, you have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. The photographic print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand. As we all know, it was the police constable that put the book between her fingers like that. Quite so, as part of his wholesale transplanting of the crime scene to the opposite side of the road. That's true, however, as part of his testimony, Constable Beat made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. What made you place that book in the victim's hand? Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. We first ran over to the scene. The victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. In other words, the victim had already picked the book up of her own volition. And clearly, that must have been before she suffered the knife wound. Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd have been doing so much of anything. So the question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand? By jingo, I think I'm beginning to see what may have happened now. Dearie me. We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Garrett household onto the pavement below. Precisely the moment the victim was walking past. Yes, at exactly that moment, the young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her. The book I threw? Yes, Mrs. Garrett, and what do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement? Well, I really can't imagine it, but I suppose she might have reached down and picked the book up. Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book. Oh, heavens! And when the woman reached down to pick the fallen book up, what position would her back have been in? That's right. Facing the sky, completely and utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book, the next object fell in from the room above, the jackknife straight into the middle of her back. Literally, this whole case could have been solved if they just had a statement from the witness. At the same time, walking by chance directly behind Miss Green was the defendant, Mr. Saseki Natsumi. Well, I never. It appeared to Mr. Natsumi the woman simply collapsed on the floor. In the dark and the fog, he didn't see the knife falling on her from above. And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker. So there never was a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place. Nope, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind this case. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Garrett, The very first time he showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wonder if perhaps it might have been something like that. There, old bean. Poor Mrs. Garrett. Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book, and I threw the knife as well. John, dear. It's alright. I know. I'm ever so sorry. Truly. Sorry! I give him credit. I gave him a lot of credit. Lord Van Zieks, what news of Mrs. Garrett? She's been taken to the infirmary. It would appear that today's events had left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe she will recover in due course. There is no cause for concern. Yes, unbeknownst to themselves, the cause what easily could have been a terrible tragedy. They shall have to prepare themselves for the consequences of their actions. There is some good news, however, my lord. I have just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. The condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon. It's strange. We've been talking about the victim all this time, but we've never once met her. Oh, wonderful. The woman is out of danger, it seems. Yes, that is good news. Is it? So, Mr. Soseki Natsumi. I think the victim is the whole reason that Van Zieks is even in this trial. Yes. On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture, and have been repaid with immeasurable unkindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies. No, it is me who should be begging your pardon. Oh, Mr. Natsumi. That evening, when the young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusion again in my confusion. What conclusion, sir? Johan, stop! I was sure that the woman was dead. Yes, Constable Beat said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she had been killed, too. I suppose she must have looked completely lifeless. It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now, but I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits lurking in the fog. Like they're haunting me. Or Seki-san's imagination really has got the better of him. Yes, poor man. So when it happened, I thought the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I should never have dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help, for a doctor, for the police. Instead, I've managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires, and for that, I am truly sorry. One could indeed say the same sort of mischievous spirit has been at work here, I think. One that created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. We were befooled by the spirit and led to false conclusions. Thanks to Lord Van Zieks, our young lawyer here from the east, that chain has now been broken, and the spirit exorcised. I heartily commend you both. Oh. Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for your decision regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court? As the foreman of this jury, I can assure you we've reached a fair and just conclusion. I do declare the truth can be extremely cruel at times. Well, I didn't suspect the woman next to me, that's for sure. Saying it for the old bean while she's out of action, you know, but I know what her decision would be. If, finally be able to get out of here and start work, well, it's about time. I say, I'll have a corker of a story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I? Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Everybody demand your final decisions. Mr. Foreman.
Guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Very well, Mr. Saseki Natsumi, I hereby pronounce you not guilty. Yay! Let's see if he survives. And finally, Mr. Natsumi. Oh, yes, Lord Sir? You are now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me. Oh, yes, sir. Of course. On my life. I swear I'll never set foot in a courtroom again. I'm transported to tears. Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned. Oh, man. Locum! Wait, you mean me? Of course! Is there another locum here? Is there even one? Compared to the original locum seat of Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it? What's wrong with using my actual name? Oh, at last, I'm free, I'm free! Joyful, joyous, jubilation! Heady, hearty, happiness, hurrah! Oh, I am pleased. Mr. Natsumi is delighted. Would it be so hard just to say that? Locum, you did it. You saved me from the break. Well, what happened to the poor woman was in no way your fault after all. I'm just glad everyone can see that now. No, not that. Lovely lawyer, locum lawyer. Yes. I mean, as I said before, I have just never got used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners. I see towering brick buildings. From high up windows, I see them looking down on me, laughing. Look at that little hunchback. Oh dear. I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsumi. What? Today, the locum lawyer gave me gloom the boot. You stood firm behind that baronial bench before all those babbling British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth. And when I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, behold the best barrister ever born! Well, that's very flattering. We're very pleased for you. This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount to my old friends back in Japan. An anecdote? Is that what's become of all my hard work? There you are, my dear fellows. I apologize for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning. Oh, Mr. Scholes, what a pleasure to see you. I see I am here not a moment too soon. A disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say. Oh. The trial should begin presently, Mr. Naruhodo, and I wish you the very best of luck. It's just finished. What? No, that my haste was in vain? Arg, it's you, Herlock Sholmes. Oh, have we met, sir? This is Mr. Natsumi, the man you had arrested, Mr. Sholmes? Ah, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom, either of your bleak lodgings or that prison cell. I simply couldn't place that curious face in the light. Charming. This is all your fault, Herlock Sholmes. You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. Fine. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. My apologies, sir, but I assure you, I have placed you now. You're the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, are you not? Ah! Had you been taken to the hospital more urgently, I feel perhaps you would have regained consciousness by now. Oh. But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human after all. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience. I do feel very badly about how I behaved. Well, never mind now then. What was it that you wanted to say to me, sir? Nothing. Ha ha ha. Priceless. Oh, I am sorry, really. But that was quite priceless. Of course, Saseki-san. Still, on the bright side, you've had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And it would seem you were not even found guilty. But there is no bright side. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsumi? Even after this, I'm so cursed by the spirits, and and by the Reaper. Oh Lord Van Zieks. I haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in court means. Even if you're found not guilty, you're still doomed. It will all be alright, Mr. Natsumi. If the Reaper appears trying to make trouble, I will protect you. Hiya! With a perfectly executed Susanoo takedown. Much as I like being turned on my head, a bit of warning might be nice next time, Miss Susanoo. Mr. Natsumi, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan. Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon. Oh. It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I've visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I've been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here and the city it has shaped. And I've come to realize it is my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it. Very touching, Mr. Natsumi. Or perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world and escape the terror of the Reaper's curse. That's not it at all! The more I learn of literature, the more the strange feeling claws in my insides, I feel compelled to return to my roots. I attempt to pen a work of my own. Oh, I see. A work of literature by Saseki-san. Could be an interesting read. What about Miss Susanoo and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry, what about us? Will you return to Japan alongside your mustache compatriot? Why would we? A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London, and only now does it feel as though we have finally found our feet. And you are accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not? That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. I've calculated we can only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted. Well then, you could take my lodgings. The windowless room? But what it lacks in windows, it more than makes up with a floor, a ceiling, and walls! Great. And of course, I'll be able to leave behind the accursed evil spirit. Oh my, an evil spirit. Oh yes. It tries to suffocate you while you sleep. It's an infallible wake-up call. It's a cat. It's definitely the cat. Well, think about it, if that's all right. Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me? Really? Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself. Though it is up in the attic, I might add. Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft? I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price, and Iris is clearing the room as we speak. Opinion. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of? Oh, this is something wonderful. What an honor to be invited to take lodgings in the great detective's office's attic. I'm too overcome for words. So I'm suggesting we look elsewhere without... Then it's settled. Iris will prepare a welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsumi. I insist. I don't know what to say, but thank you. And yes. Wonderful. Then I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsumi. It shan't take for long. Somebody's happy. Welcome. I knew that you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London. Likewise, Mr. Natsumi, it's been a privilege meeting you too. It's a shame that we're going to have to say goodbye so soon. Well, I've come to realize that I belong in Japan. But welcome, we'll meet again one day. Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then, I'll be a successful lawyer. Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author. Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, Mr. Sholmes. I've little doubt Mr. Natsumi will be released in time for dinner this evening. And so, with Saseki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode with Mr. Sholmes to what was to become our new home, 221B Baker Street. Please don't make it. Please let Mr. Natsumi live. Please let Mr. I want Natsumi to live. The attic room. What is this, Persona 5? So this is to be our new office. Yes, our office. I rather like the sound of that. Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it? I hope you can see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step, but I'd like to think we're getting a little closer to your dream now. So, my dear fellows, you like the place? Ah, Mr. Sholmes. Whoa, look at you go. Delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it. Good, I'm pleased to hear it. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you. I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsumi arrives. We have a lot to celebrate. Iris, you must let me help you. All right then, Susie. You can be in charge of the salad. Splendid! So, Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel to have your own office in the capital? It's very exciting, actually. I can't help wondering what adventures await us. Ah ha ha! Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is. Sorry? London is a glorious place full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. With the brightest of light casts the darkest of shadows. Shadows? What do you mean? Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So once again, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London. Of course, at the time, I had no idea of the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke. But it wasn't long before my turn came. I looked at the facade and see the true depth of the mirth that lie behind it. Oh my gosh, that was sick. Episode 5. The Hound of the Baskerville? At any rate, what is going to happen going forward? Is the Reaper really going to just kill everyone that gets to be a not guilty verdict? What's the deal with this Crystal Tower? What is Kazuma's real reason for coming to London? Well, hopefully we'll find out more next time on Great Ace Attorney 1. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the episode and have a fantastic rest of your evening.